Hey, it's a Danny.
Hello.
Yee.
How's it going?
It's going good. We're just waiting for the countdown to go off for now, and I did also put a pin in the chat as well that until since I ain't gonna be uploading this to YouTube, just so you know, I can stay by their rules. We're gonna like try to not use any profane language for the first 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you know, gotta abide by YouTube's TOS, make sure things are friendly.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been a while since I've been in one of your streams.
Yeah, it has. Like, I understand you've been very busy.
Well, not only just that, it's because usually, like, when you're running your streams, like, I usually come home from work, I want to say, by like 4 o'clock. By then, I shower, get kitchen stink off of me,
Yeah.
Maybe gives me time for like a quick little cat nap. Then I'm eating dinner, and then I'm off to an aerial class. So I miss a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, I understand that. It's fine. But, like, I've always told people, like, you know, you may have the collab tags and whatnot, but, like, you just come in, like, anytime you feel like. Like, you're not obligated to, like, jump in every time.
Right. Well, that was why when you said you were going to do this one, I was like, of course I got to get in on this one.
Yep.
You're the reason I even read the comic.
Yes, and I will be the reason many others will get into it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have a CC here, too. Hello, CC.
I'm trying to think, will anybody else be joining us?
I mean, if they want to, like, I don't care, like, who else wants to end up joining the call or whatnot. Like, I was also hoping Jordan's gonna be in it because I'm also the reason he got into the comics. Yeah, just did some last touch-ups on the PowerPoint presentation. I have the book next to me.
Nice.
Hello, CC. You just chilling on the bed? Yeah, and I also imagine too, like aside from like the Lyra classes and also some of the yoga that you occasionally do, there's also just the fact that you've been working on D&D notes for Strixhaven.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this next session should not be too terribly difficult, to plan out.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, especially since everybody decided they want to address the Thopter situation. So I was like, okay, cool. That gives me more time to plan the field trip, because I want there to be a lot to do on the field trip.
Yeah. And Dawning,
So-
on Dawning Heart, I'm here for bones. Good.
Bones.
Yep. We like the bones. We like the funny white guys with the big noses. Some of them of the star shape, the star shirt variety.
Let me retweet this out. So. There we go. Just retweeted.
All right. Yay. Hello there, Roxy. You're just in time because the countdown is in fact done and over with. So, hello everyone. It is I, Realm Wars. I'm a PNG tuber who predominantly does artwork, but that's not what I'm doing today. Today, I'm going to be doing my long-awaited retrospective of Jeff Smith's magnum opus, otherwise known as Bone. And I have myself a Danny in the call.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Still got the freakish arc that's like ah!
Ah, yes, the good stuff.
Yeah, everyone likes the bird boy.
As they should.
Yeah, as they should. But so yeah, I have been doing lots and lots and lots of artwork as of lately, so I also figure, you know what, this is probably a good time to get myself a bit of a rest from that. But I mean, at least it keeps me true to my stream introduction. But for now, I want to introduce you guys to what I personally consider my all-time favorite comic, and it has been so for a very long time. And that is a series known as Bone, written by one Jeff Smith. It was written and illustrated by one man. So, yeah, Crystal's happy to see you, Danny.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I know I mentioned this during the countdown, but I'll mention it again here. You know, most of the time when you're doing the streams, like, I come home, you know, maybe take like a quick cat nap. I'm definitely showering because I work as a pastry cook, so I'm in a bakery all day.
Yep.
and then pretty much after that it's dinner, and most of the time I'm in an aerial class.
Yeah.
So I end up missing like all of your streams. But the minute that you said, "Hey, I'm gonna do a thing on Bone. Would you like to join?" and I saw like he gave me like a week or two's like advance notice. I said, "Sure, I'll join."
Yeah. And and I especially imagine consider how hot it's been lately. I'd imagine like it is roasting in that kitchen.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even so much the heat; it's the humidity.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, the humidity is what's killing me.
Yeah. But luckily, we now have a decent time to relax here and talk about the funny white people with the big noses.
Yes.
Yeah, because like I've certainly not made it a secret that Jeff Smith is like a very big inspiration of mine to actually like get to working on my own comics. It really is thanks to Bone that it's like, you know what, I really want to get into this. But I'm going to show you exactly what really makes it so great. And I will also say too, just in advance, that I will be posting this on YouTube. So in case there's people who ended up missing the live showing, don't worry, you'd still be able to see it once you check it out on my channel. In fact, I will be downloading the VOD as soon as the stream is finished.
Woo!
Yeah, but for now, what exactly is Bone? I'm certain some of you are probably wondering. So, Bone is a graphic novel series that was originally published in 1991 by Jeff Smith. It was independently written and illustrated entirely by him, with some small assistance by his wife. The other thing about it too is that, yeah, before they were actually like made into like big graphic novels that you probably see maybe at like say maybe your local bookstores, or even at like the other place you can usually find them, like at a lot of like school book fairs, they actually were sold as like individual like issues themselves. Like each chapter was sold as its own individual like paperback issue, like all in black and white, because that was what he was originally doing.
Yeah, because that's like, yeah. You're the reason why I got into Bone.
Yeah.
And the version of Bone that I got, I guess, was just like the big master collection. So it's just this massive book.
Oh yeah. In fact, I actually have it right next to me. In fact, chat, you want to know how hefty this book is? I'm gonna let you hear it.
It is a brick.
Yeah, it is a massive brick. Although I will say, my book has absolutely seen better days. In fact, I will actually turn on the camera real quick just so you can see how it is looking.
Oh god.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Oh god. Even Donnie Hart's like, goodness. Like, yeah, that slam was one entire book. But yeah, I'm gonna turn on the webcam real quick. So yeah, this is the condition of my book. Actually, let me yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is the condition of the book that I have. Like,
yeah.
Danny, you may need to actually look on stream because I don't have it on, like, this call itself.
Okay. Yep, that's the collection that I got. I just bought that off Amazon. But, remind me, how many pages exactly?
I can actually check that. It has about... hold on, let me just actually get to... Yeah, it has, not counting, like, some of the, extra few pages at the end, 1,332.
Yeah, that's a hefty book.
Yeah, very hefty book. Also, Inzalasna, I'm probably gonna end up butchering this name. Izalasnanda, Snady, thank you for following.
Welcome.
But yeah, I'm glad you were able to. I'm glad this was the first stream you were able to join into, because, you know, again, I'm so happy to be able to finally talk about this with people, because I love Bone so much. I want more people to be talking about it, and I'll be getting into a bit of that when I actually start talking about Jeff Smith himself, because the man is very interesting. Yeah, over 1,000 pages, because it's all 9 books in one collection.
Yeah. And this is where I like, because I think back to when I was a kid. Because, I mean, like, 1991, I I want to say kindergarten, first grade. I was a wee little Danny back then.
Yeah.
You know, so probably still too young to really, like, understand, to understand comic books besides, like, what you would normally get in, like, a Sunday newspaper. But even when I was in school, like, you mentioned the book fairs and how Bone was being sold in the book fairs. I did not even remotely consider, I'm sure Bone was there, but I didn't even consider that at book fairs. Like, when I was going to book fairs as a kid, I was looking for things like Goosebumps and Animorphs.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't looking at comic books. So that's why I completely missed Bone for the longest time until you brought that collection, to my attention, and that was the one that I got. And I got that a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah. In fact, actually, it's funny that you mentioned Sunday newspaper comics, because Bone was initially planned to be just that. Like, it was going to be like comic strips in a Sunday newspaper. That was his original plan.
Oh man, that would have taken forever and a day to tell the Bone story in a Sunday comic.
Yeah. Well, you see, it's actually funny because the story was actually a lot different from what he was initially going to be doing, and it's something that I will end up getting to once I get to like all the books in the series, because he does have something new coming out that he does actually have a Kickstarter for.
Oh.
Yeah, but but for now, one thing I will say though is that the main series, if you're planning on getting into it, it's honestly not a long series to get into. Like, if you're just looking for the main series, you're just going through 9 books. But there's also a prequel, there's a few epilogues, and there's also a sequel series that was not exactly comics, but they're like actual literary novels. It's called Quest for the Spark, and it's like 3 books long.
I've still yet to get that one. I've only just read like the main series.
Yeah.
And like, trust me when I say, like, the main series, as I'm sure we'll definitely talk more about, you can get sucked into this story so quick. So, I know 1,000 pages sounds very daunting, but if you get into it, you are gonna fly through these pages so fast. Like, 1,000 pages of a comic book is a lot easier to get through than a 1,000-page novel.
Yeah, and part of that will also go into one of my favorite things about Bones, like way it does panel construction. But for now, first time chatter. Yeah, hello, welcome. So, how about we actually get to talk about Jeff Smith himself? So yeah, man was born February 27, 1960, and he spent most of his college work actually just working on Bone. Like, he's been drawing these characters since his childhood, but it was really college where he started, like, actually working on these guys. Have you already tried Stream Viewers Org, Real Viewers, Firework? They're going to give a free package for streamers. No, I haven't. I've mostly just been on Twitch. But I'm kind of fine on here. But for now, we're just going to be focusing on Bone here. This is what we're going to be talking about. That's actually going to be something I'm going to be saying here too. I'm not going to be talking too much about like any other kind of subject matters on here. So like, I know on my usual streams, like, I don't mind the usual like idle chat about other things that may occur like here and there, like maybe recent events, things and whatnot. But considering the topic of the video here, I want to stick strictly to this just so we don't go off topic. Yeah, but one thing that was rather interesting about Bone in its beginning is that, while it was going to be first started as a newspaper series, it wasn't actually originally going to be titled as Bone. It was actually going to be Thorn.
Interesting.
Yeah, there is a character that is introduced in Bone known as Thorn, and she was initially going to be like the main character of the comic. In fact, it was actually named after her. Yeah, then it's like, I figured like later on when he started like making the actual like, when he actually started like self-publishing the comics, he started making it more focused on the Bone cousins themselves, so that's probably why he ended up changing it to Bone. In fact, something that I find really funny, and like, I don't know if he does this on purpose, but if he does, I think it's really great, but like, I've noticed all of Jeff Smith's literary works that he's put out, they have a naming convention where the titles are all just 4 letters long. You have Bone, you have Rassel, you have Tukey.
Okay.
Yeah, like, I couldn't help but notice that. I'm like, I wonder if he does that on purpose or if that's just coincidence. Yeah, another interesting thing about his comics as well, whereas like a bunch of people like have, especially like if you look in the manga industry, a lot of people have moved to like doing everything digitally, like say maybe with like Clip Studio, whatever kind of art program they use. Jeff Smith still does all of his stuff traditionally. Like he still does like pen, pencil, and classic ink.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when you've been doing that for years and you're really good at it, why stop doing that?
Yeah, really. Yeah, seriously, bad respect.
Yep, very bad respect. He's been inspired by works of Moby Dick, Huckleberry Finn, the original Star Wars trilogy, as well as Lord of the Rings. In fact, Bone is often compared a lot to Lord of the Rings. And not without some merit, like there are definitely some parallels you can draw between Bone and Lord of the Rings. Like they're not one-to-one the same story, but there are some instances where you can just kind of be like, you know what? Bone feels like kind of a Hobbit guy.
And honestly, I think that was what originally, when you were pitching this to me, like, you gotta read this story, because I remembered, like, you talking about Bone every now and again, seeing a couple of pictures, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. You look at the funny Bone people, and they do have like that Sunday comic vibe, which given what you've just said about its history, makes a lot of sense. But the minute that you started saying, like, we were talking about the story, I'm like, so what genre would you say this is? And the minute you said, oh, this is fantasy, this is like Lord of the Rings level, and I'm like, wait, what? That took me completely off guard. But then when you were explaining it, I'm like, okay, I gotta look into this now. So it's like, yeah, like, do not be fooled by the funny Bone people.
Yeah, no, don't be fooled by them. That's the clever trick. One thing I think was also really cool about Jeff Smith is that one time he actually did work with DC, where he worked specifically on a comic known as Shazam, the Monster Society of Evil, and that's actually the first I actually ever heard of Shazam. Yeah, so like, I actually initially thought like he was just like an original that like this was just another original thing that he came up with. But then as soon as I saw like Shazam like in Injustice, I'm like, oh cool, one of Jeff Smith's guys got in here. Then usually I'm like, oh wait, no, he's just always been a DC thing. This is just the one thing Jeff Smith actually worked on.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I've never actually read it, but I just think that's also a rather big cool thing of history. But another thing Jeff Smith also has learned firsthand is having many horror stories working with his editors.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, it's the big reason he went indie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? I'll believe it.
Yeah. Like, I'll never forget. Actually, hold on. Let me actually turn down the music on this because that went much louder than I thought it would be. But one of the stories that he actually told, like this was like the straw that broke the camel's back for him. One of his editors actually straight up told him, "Hey, maybe you should have the Bone Cousins talk in thought bubbles." Why? Well, because Garfield and Snoopy do it. And then at that point, he's just like, nope, I'm done. We're not doing this.
Yeah, try and copy what the success, like, what they consider to be the, it's copying success.
Yeah, and like...
And like, completely missing the mark.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the first time he's ever had to deal with, like, executive decisions that just did not mix well with him, because I believe there was actually a time he did get a deal with Nickelodeon for, like, a Bone adaptation.
I heard about that. Like, yeah, and it's like, didn't they try to, like, make, like, all kinds of demands, like, including, like, throw pop music in it?
Yeah, I'll get that, but first off, I want to say, Ningendum Funkelsbump, thank you for following! You guys have great names on Twitch.
That's why I was like, oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry, is that a stream name or is that a command? Alright, but yeah, so he was okay with having a deal with Nickelodeon, like having an adaptation of Bone. There was one request that he had. He did not want pop music associated with Bone because, the last thing he wanted was his product to feel dated. And obviously, the quickest way to do that is to, like, throw pop music in there that's like, oh yeah, I remember listening to this in the 2000s. And initially, Nickelodeon were on board with that. They were willing to respect that. But then sometime down the road, they're just like, you know what if we use, like, this really popular song for the trailer? And then Jeff Smith is like, nope, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's like, and you know what? considering the horror stories that have come out about all the corners of Nickelodeon for the past, like, how many years? Sounds like he dodged a bullet.
Oh yeah, he absolutely did.
It's like, the man has got plot armor.
Yeah. Listen, if there's one thing Jeff Smith knows how to do, it's he knows how to keep a vice grip on his property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's very good at being able to do that. And that, honestly, that is something I can have, like, very mad respect for. Because it's like, again, the only thing that he wants is to just make sure his product doesn't feel dated. Like, he wants to make it feel like, yeah, this is, like, a pure adaptation of my work. He doesn't want any kind of gimmicks attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That's precisely why the music playing for the stream is nothing but open world music tracks, because that's what Jeff Smith would have wanted. I did what Nickelodeon couldn't. Suck it. All right. Now, as for the story of Bone, so what exactly is the story consisting of? So, the basic rundown is that you have 3 cousins, Phone Bone, Phony Bone, and Smiley Bone, who are run out of town and are lost in a valley. And their main goal is that they have to find their way home and before the conflicts of this new world can kill them. That is the basic summary of what the entire story is. What I'm going to be getting into a bit later, aside from other couple of plot points that just dive even further into what kind of conflicts they'll be facing, is a lot of, like, the character interaction, the chemistry, and just overall world building that you end up getting that just make Bone just such an interesting universe, as well as, like, the multiple different type of tones that they end up covering.
Yeah. So, would you consider Bone to be an isekai?
I don't know if necessarily an isekai, because, like, it's not like they're traveling to, like, an entirely different universe, because the Valley and Boneville do exist in the same world, they're just across, like, a massive desert, so it's more so a kind of like a fish out of water type of story.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, I'm getting the feeling I'm being followed by bots. Because that's the exact same message I got not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, you see those bots? Mods, you know what to do. Get the gun. Oh, yeah, one thing I will also say, though, too, like, I want to say, like, with the initial story that the comic was going for when it was going to be a Sunday newspaper about Thorn, initially, there were only going to be 2 Bone cousins. Like, I think Smiley Bone was, like, a late addition.
Really?
Yeah, like, I think it was just going to be Phone Bone and Phony Bone at first, along with, like, Thorn and doing, like, whatever journeys that they needed to do.
Huh.
Yeah, so yeah, like, Smiley Bone was just a later addition to that, so yeah, we got the funny lanky man here. Now, so yeah, so for the books, so we have the books 1 through 9, which which are the initial ones that you can get. Then there's the prequel Rose, which goes over things that happen, like, before the actual Bone series ends up kicking off. That foreshadows a number of different things that were to happen. There's the epilogue stories, Stupid Rat Tales, which, these aren't necessarily important for you to read to get a bit of the plot. Like, it's just a bit more of, like, okay, let's dive into a bit more, like, some of these side stories that were, like, we didn't see in the initial storyline. Like, there is one where, there is a storyline where Smiley Bone talks about, this time where Phone Bone and Phony Bone had to go on this epic quest to get away from doing Grandma Ben's laundry. And it ends up ending where it's like, oh, we gotta find this treasure. You know what treasure means? Capitalism. And then, like, they're going through all these different perils, like climbing these mountains, getting all banged up and scratched up. Phone Bone gets eaten by a giant eagle.
Oh, God.
Don't worry, he lives. And then
he got better.
Yeah, he got better. And then they get X marks the spot where they dig into the ground, and what is their treasure? Grandma Ben's laundry that has not been washed yet.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, but then after that, we actually get ourselves an origin story on the founder of Boneville, Big Johnson Bone, who I can best describe as a Popeye if he were a bone creature. Like, this bone is infused with the powers of both God and anime. Then there's some other epilogues. In fact, there actually was another issue of Stupid Rat Tales that has this epilogue comic called Bone Coda, which is supposed to be taking place, after all 9 books ends. Then you have the Quest for the Spark books, which, they're not comics, but they are a sequel series, and there's only 1 to 3 books. And then, recently announced, Thorn. So, this is basically a collection of the very old comic strips that Jeff Smith was going to be making. So this was basically like before Bone ended up being finalized. So if you really wanted to see how Bone was before like it initially became what it was, you can get this collection, and he does have a Kickstarter going up for that right now.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Like you get to like see like his very early work.
Yeah, because that's where it's like, see that I find interesting. I mean, that's like, yeah, I get that's like one of the reasons why I really respect Hirohiko Araki, who writes JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Just read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and just as you're going from like story to story, you can see the art style changing. Like Phantom Blood looks nothing at all like the JoJo lands. So
Yeah, in
it's
fact,
like you really do see his art evolving as you go through the stories, and to me, I think that's such a wonderful little treat.
Yeah, in fact, actually, hold on. I'll actually pull up something for you guys, because I just pulled up an image of, what the looking at the cover looks like. Like, you see how, like, the comic covers on these are looking, and then I'm gonna show you what this initially looked like. If I could get the correct window. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, yeah. And also, I'll also pull up for you too, Danny, so you don't have to look at the screen. But yeah, so that's that's actually the cover for what Thorn looks like, and you can see, like, the drastic change in art style over the years.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's like you can still, like, you can still clearly tell that is Thorn and that is Phone Bone, but it's like, without the like, oh, what would you call it? Like, yeah, I mean, it is like the very rough sketches, but it's like, before it's fine-tuned.
Yeah, like before, like, the characters are, like, in, like, much more detail, because, like, Jeff Smith's art style is relatively interesting, because it's like, yeah, you have, like, the really cartoon-y looking, like, Bone Cousins and whatnot, but you also have, like, some of the human characters who, some of them looking a bit more realistic and proportional, but some of them also looking, like, on the tad more of the caricature side. So, like, it's not, so, like, it's cartoony to the point that, it looked, the characters look like simple, comfy, and easy to be around, but it's also not too cartoon to the point that when the story wants to take itself seriously, you're not taken out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, let me get back the PowerPoint for the call itself. But yeah, you can in fact get this when it eventually does come out, because again, he does have a Kickstarter going for that now, and that is something that you can eventually like order for yourself. I guess I gotta manually start clicking on this stuff. All right, that's fine. But just for the record, Bone has in fact appeared in other medias before. Yeah, so Bone did in fact get 2 video games based on only the first 2 books of the series. So we did have Out from Boneville and The Great Cow Race as like point-and-click games from Telltale Games themselves. And the ultimate tragedy too is that those 2 games were available on Steam for a while, and then Steam took them off the library.
Ah, boo.
Yeah, because because trust me, I would have done a playthrough of these games if I could, but unfortunately, they were taken off the store. Yeah.
I think are they available like anywhere else, like GOG or other sites?
You can actually still purchase like physical CDs, because they were given out like actual like physical CDs that you could put into your PC. Unfortunately, I still can't do that because my PC does not have a disk drive.
I know. Like we're at the point now where disk drives. What are those?
Yeah.
Like, we first went from, like, floppy disks, what are those? Now CDs, what are those?
Yeah. Was there a reason they took them off? I want to say, I think it was, oh, hold on, we got ourselves an ad break going. Alright, but yeah, I'm sure you can check back at the VOD just, you know, to get the answer you're looking for, Crystal. But, basically, I feel like this was part of, I think this was during the time when Telltale Games was kind of going under a little bit of controversy because of their work conditions. Yeah, because, like, there was a time where, like, there was a time where, like, Telltale Games were just, once they started doing the Walking Dead series, they were just making it huge. Like, it was either making Walking Dead or it was other, like, point-and-click games, like, Wolf Beyond Us or, even, like, their Batman Telltale games. Yeah. Hello there, Brandon. Ads hot. Sounds like people need to subscribe. I mean, they can. But yeah, like, it was during that time where, like, I believe, like, Telltale was, like, kind of getting out of her having, like, some rather poor working conditions, like, especially for the animators. And I think it was, during some of that where, like, people were just ended up kind of speaking with their wallets to the point that Telltale was starting to financially struggle, to the point that they started taking a lot of their games off of Steam. But then I think they kind of got their footing back a little bit, and that's when they started getting some of their games back, except for Bone. We still don't know why that one's not on here. Yeah, but,
thanks, soldier.
I remember there was a video that you showed me that, like, somebody took, like, audio from, like, one of the games. It was, like, a brief, like, 30-second, like, animated thing. I think it was where, they were talking about the cow race.
Yep.
I remember you showing me that, and it was like, I mean, it was very well done. I mean, it was just a fan animation for, like, 30 seconds of animation. It was done very well, but yeah, the audio came from the game.
Yeah. Also, Roxy, thank you for subscribing. Actually, I can pull up that animation real quick, because it's very short.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 24 seconds long. I can actually bring that up real quick. Because,
Right, But it's like, again, you want to talk about the attention to detail. That's where it's like, when it comes to, like, when we say we want Bone animated, it's like, we want this quality.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like it's ripped straight out of the comic.
Yeah. In fact, just so you don't have to watch stream delay, here we go. So, yeah.
You can eat and sleep here tonight. We'll all go into town together. Well, big day tomorrow.
The, cow race? People actually bet on these races?
Some people bet everything they have on the race.
What are you thinking, Phony?
What, me? Nothing.
I'm Ted. I'm a bug.
Hi, Ted.
Yes. But yes, what is it? Andrew K. Full, I believe, was the guy that made that, you know.
Yeah.
You can
Yes, like, thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir, for making this quick little animation. It is beautiful.
Yeah, it is very good. In fact, I'll actually also get the trailer for the Telltale games. Because they did have one of these. Yeah, here we go. It's a kind of low quality, but...
The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be.
Hi, Smiley.
The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be many long years ago.
Shut up! Meet Phone Bone, Phony Bone, and Smiley Bone. 3 cousins lost far from home.
Hello! Hello!
In a strange new world.
Hey, watch it.
Sorry.
Where new adventures await and new dangers lurk.
Mr. Dragon, have you seen my cousins?
Look who joined us for supper.
Join Phone and his friends on their first truly interactive adventure.
That's right, kid. Never play an ace if a 2 will do.
Say the line, Phone Bone.
Stupid rat creatures!
Hey, he said it.
that is like the iconic line out of that comic. Is stupid rat creatures.
They do be stupid. But yeah, like that's how that's how the games. Yeah, that was just a trailer for like Out from Boneville, and yeah, they did do one for the Great Cow Race, and then they kind of stopped after doing that. They never adapted the other like 7 books.
Yes. Also, hi, Brendan.
Yeah, Brandon. But yeah, like, trust me, if I was able to get those games on Steam, you know absolutely they would have been games I streamed. They looked very Sam & Max, too, which, you know, makes sense, because Telltale Games also did Sam & Max. As for other appearances that Phonebone has made, he was there in, he made a cameo in some of these other things, like, Psyblade, The Battle for Independence. He made a quick cameo in that. Gen 13, you can see him on the cover for here, along with some rat creatures. Savage Dragon was also a cameo that he appeared in. And he didn't make a cameo in Sam & Max Save the World, but they do make a reference to Barrel Haven Tavern, which I thought was really cool. I'm like, oh my god, they referenced Bone! And I think that also is really great as like a double kind of Easter egg too, because again, Telltale Games also worked on the Bone game, so they worked that into Sam & Max. And then, yeah, we were originally going to be getting a show on Netflix until that got canceled before we even got a single teaser for it.
And believe me, so many people were upset. Like, I remembered when word got out that got canceled. I mean, I remember all over social media, everybody was so pissed.
Yeah, Jeff Smith especially was pissed, because like, he actually he made a whole video like on his website, you know, telling everyone like, oh hey, we got the single and I got this deal with Netflix, like, is it gonna be great? We're gonna actually get this, we're actually gonna get this adapted into animation. And then then it got canceled.
Yeah, because Netflix is Netflix, and Netflix doesn't know when to keep the good stuff.
Yep. I wonder why that got... Yeah, it's like, I wonder why that got canceled. Well, because this was during the day where Netflix just were canceling a ton of their animated projects.
Yeah, it's like, unfortunately, Netflix has a really bad habit of they greenlight a ton of stuff, but as far as, like, actually, like, putting money to, like, keeping that going long term, yeah, they really don't. Like, they may greenlight a lot, but they'll only focus on, like, a small few because they want, like, the massive binge numbers.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, certain shows are just not built for that model. That's where it's like, I will forever be upset that they canceled Dark Crystal Age of Resistance.
Yeah.
That is still my favorite show that Netflix has come out with. And yeah, they came out with one season and they just decided to drop it. And I will never forgive them for that.
Yeah.
But that's why it does not surprise me what happened with Bone, you know, but honestly, given with, like, now that what we're seeing with indie animation, it's like, Jeff, I know you love the indie scene. You're an indie comic writer, so it's like, why not look into, like, the indie animation route to get this done? Because, I mean, it's like, have you seen what Vivian Medrano has done?
Yeah.
Have you seen that Lackadaisy has raised $2 million for, like, 5 episodes and a couple of mini episodes? It's like, you can, like, have you seen the numbers that Amazing Digital Circus is getting? It's like, indie animation, you can make it work if you get the right people. So it's like, I really think if we have a chance of seeing an animated Bone, I think that's how we're gonna have to do it. Is like, well, I can't say we. It's how Jeff can approach it. Is, find people and do it indie. Do it on his own. Like, if he was to make a Kickstarter or something saying, yeah, let's make an animated series, people will chip in.
Yeah. Like, God, I now just imagine, man, I can't wait to see the people behind Hell of a Boss animating Bone. Like, completely different medium. It's like, wow, it's made by the Hell of a Boss people, but there's a lot less swearing. That'd just be wild. Also, hello, Ard.
You know.
Alright, but now, see, it's not, and I'll also say, it's not like Bone didn't get the reception it did deserve. It absolutely did, because, I mean, for God's sake, like, the number of awards that Bone has won is actually astounding. Like, it's one, like, you can even, like, look at all the covers, like, especially on, like, the back of the covers, including the big collection book. It's like, yeah, it's won, like, 10 Eisner Awards, 11 Harvey Awards. It's won, like, National Cartoonist Society for Comics. It was, it was selected for Palmer's Picks when, 6 books, when just 6 books were published. Like, the series wasn't even finished. Named a top 10 comic book Time magazine, and we've also had, like, quotes acclaiming it from the likes of people like Frank Miller, Matt Groening, Neil Gaiman, and others. And honestly, Frank Miller's a really big one on that, because that's the guy behind Sin City.
Yeah, but quite frankly, it's like, quite frankly, all 3 of those are really big names to have on your belt. Yeah,
because, I mean, we all know who Matt Groening is, too. Like, Mr. Simpson's man. 11 awards from a Harvey's Restaurant Impressive. God damn it, Fenrir. I get it. But, like, so yeah, like, Bone was getting itself, like, recognition, like, when it was first making the rounds and everything. In fact, again, it's still considered, like, one of Jeff Smith's, like, biggest works, and it's still something that he does kind of, like, expand on every now and then. It's just that he also does, like, some other stories here and there to, like, change things up a little bit. It's just that, especially nowadays, when it comes to people talking about comics, it's always, if it's not anime or manga, it's always Marvel or DC.
Right.
Yeah. And then it's like, you see, like, Marvel, DC get all of their adaptations. You see stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid get an adaptation. Captain Underpants got a goddamn movie. And meanwhile, it's like, of all the things, of all the kind of comics to not get an adaptation, Bone is still kind of sitting there waiting for his turn. Frank Miller made this. No, Bone was made by Jeff Smith. However, Frank Miller has given praise to Bone, which, again, I think is a rather big thing, because, again, the guy was behind Sin City. And that's a really big property. And now, this is where I talk about one of my favorite things about Jeff Smith's, like, art style and, like, the way that he does all these panels. Because, like, you can actually see it kind of here as well. Where, like, yeah, the comics feel like they are very much full of motion, like, even at a standstill, because they are both illustrated and organized very much as if they're a storyboard itself, which is why I'm sitting here like, Bone feels like it's one of the easiest things you can make into, like, an animated adaptation, because you don't even need to storyboard it. The comic already does that itself. Like this chase sequence here, like, there's, like, no words of dialogue, but, like, everything just moves and flows together like it's done in, like, a one-shot camera, and it just feels so good. In fact, when Danny said that you could, like, easily blow through this is part of the reason why, because you have, like, especially when it comes to these chase sequences, you're just blazing through these whole things as quickly as it ends up looking, and honestly, it kind of immerses you a bit more, because you are looking through these as quickly as these chase sequences are going, and that's just great. Yeah, there's and it's not even just a Bone thing either. Like, this is something you can also see in Jeff Smith's other works. Like, you can see it in Wrestle, you can see it in Tukey, like, you can see it, like, a bunch of different things. I just love it for that. And I think it's something I feel like not a lot of comics actually do when it comes to this kind of structure, because it's like, especially when you have, like, your big action sequences, you'll maybe just see, like, some panels of characters just, like, brawling and duking it out with each other, but it's, like, all spaced out by, like, a bunch of different quotes and bubbles of characters speaking and whatnot, and thus kind of blocking the action a little bit, so you don't get to fully take in everything. In fact, I think the only thing I can really think of that somewhat comes close to this is the Demon Slayer manga. I think the best option at this point is to basically get a Kickstarter going from the creator, or at least an animated pilot similar to Has Been Hotel. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying, like, you know, yeah, if Jeff's at all interested, that might be the best route, but now there's the whole caveat of he's gotta, you know, hunt down the right people. Like, he's practically now got to make an animation studio for himself, you know, if he truly wants to go indie.
Which, funny enough, I think he kind of did that at one point before establishing Cartoon Books, because I think initially the guy was actually part of a team that were going to be doing a bunch of stop-motion animation, but, like, I think after a while, he kind of just dropped it because he was looking at this going, I kind of don't want to do this. Like, I feel like this isn't my thing in particular. So he kind of ended up dropping, like, the whole stop-motion animation just to pursue, you know, again, his dream of making comics. One thing I will also say, too, about the comics as well is that originally they were in black and white until they ended up getting the Scholastic deal where sometimes you would see those at, like, bookstores and whatnot, but, like, those are actually colored versions of the book, and the colored version is done by Steve Haymaker. That's probably the only thing that's actually done about this digitally. It is the coloring. And now, Bone does have some great run-on jokes. The first one, of course, you already mentioned, too. Stupid, stupid rat creatures. Because, man, the rat creatures do, in fact, be dumb. There's also the fact that the rat creatures have a love-hate relationship with Quiche. Moby Dick puts people to sleep.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep, which is funny when you consider that was one of Jeff Smith's inspirations. Then, Foam Bone falls off cliffs a lot. And also, Foam Bone is really bad at writing poems. He's such a silly boy.
Artemon says, could have sworn that the Bone comic was also in Disney Adventure magazine in the 90s?
I don't remember if it was. I do remember, though, one time that, when they did have the Nickelodeon deal, like, man, I'm probably about to open up a bunch of nostalgia floodgates when I talk about this, but, hey, remember when Nickelodeon used to have their own magazine?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, they actually had an interview with Jeff Smith in there when they were talking about Bone. I think they were up to talking about I think it's because at that time, the most recent book to, like, get the color treatment was, the 5th book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then, yeah, they started asking him, like, a bunch of different interview questions. I think my favorite question from that interview was, when he was asked who does he think is cuter, Mickey Mouse or Phone Bone? Yeah, and, no, honestly, his response to that question is actually hysterical because he heard that question and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna have to give it to Phone Bone. I think he's the cuter of the two because every time you look at Mickey Mouse and you turn him around, you're reminded that he has a tail. And then the immediate follow-up question is like, oh, so you're reminded that he's a rodent. And Jeff Smith is like, exactly. Jeff Smith is a funny guy. Yeah, Nickelodeon used to have a magazine, like, until eventually they discontinued it, like, some time ago. But, yeah, those are some of the run-on jokes you can expect to see when it comes to Bone. They do have a couple of brick jokes that they throw in here and there, but I was initially going to make a slide of that, but, I didn't want to give out a little too much about some things in terms of the story, because I want you guys to actually pick some of the stuff up, so I don't want to give you guys every bit of information on it. That being said, I was going to handle this retrospective a bit differently, so I was actually going to handle this similarly to how you, Danny, did with your Four Swords retrospective, like, years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, before that got... Yeah, I was like... Even that got that inevitably got copyright claimed.
Yeah, because unfortunately, yeah, because that is a thing with Twitch's TOS. They don't allow you to just straight up read copywritten works, which, you know, understandable. So that's why I ended up having to do this as a bit of a different approach. So not that I don't mind doing this, because, you know, at least I do still get to talk about it.
Yeah, because I was like, back in the day, like, you know, once all the commentary stuff was done, you know, on my YouTube channel, the only thing that I had on there was my Four Swords retrospective, but eventually that too got copyright claimed, so it's like, yeah, now I have nothing on my channel.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Yep, you know, it's like, whoa, hold on, hold on. I just suddenly went into the full screen of that for a second. Yeah, I did not mean to do that. I think that was a misclick on my end. But I mean, I'm sure, like, there's some instances where, like, I can maybe take the book and read a bit of an excerpt from it. Like, I think just a few bits of it is perfectly fine. Just, you know, not straight up, like, reading, like, the full thing, which is, again, what I was initially going to try to do. But, no, Can't do that. But, you know, again, that's fine. I can at least settle with this. But for now, so... Here's where we get into a bit of the character. So here's our main bone of the whole story. This is Phone Bone. He's a good boy. He wears a backpack. He's the most level-headed of the three of the Bone cousins. His favorite things in the world that he liked is reading, long walks, and Thorn. What he dislikes, of course, are rat creatures, the hooded one, and Phony Bone's schemes. Like, not his cousin in particular, just his schemes. And I would say, like, I feel like if I were to say, oh, he looks adorable. He is adorable. You know what? Jeff Smith says so, too. He says he's cuter than Mickey Mouse. But, if I were to say, like, some of the strongest aspects of Phone Bone as a character is that I'd say that he's probably the most well-adapted when it comes to new environments, especially when you see, like, how he ends up surviving out in the wilderness in the first book. He is a very good boy, so, like, he's very easy to get along with all the rest of them. In fact, I will say this, when they do eventually get into the valley, Phony Bone and Smiley Bone end up getting the most heat from, like, the other village people. Phone Bone is the only one they don't have beef with. And then, and he's also, like, extremely devoted to people. Like, if you become friends with this guy, he is friends for life. He sticks with you. His biggest weakness, this man has no inside voice. Like, he will openly speak, like, whatever it is on his mind. In fact, there's, oh god, there is a really funny bit, like, I want to say, like, oh yeah, it was in book 7, where they actually do confront the hooded one. And, the hooded one's, like, about to, like, try to abduct Thorn again. And Phone Bone just says out loud to the hooded one after chucking a giant rock at their face, "You know what? I've just about had it with you. First you messed with my cousins, now you're messing with my girl. Let's go, right now!" And he says that right in front of Thorn. And it does eventually end up later, them just running from a horde of rat creatures, and Thor's just looking at FOMO going like, "Messing with your girl, huh?"
It's like, he's so sweet.
Yeah, he's so sweet. He is such a sweetheart, but it's also like, yeah, this guy does not know. You know what? Maybe that's why the editors are like, maybe you should have him speak in thought bubbles. Thorn wouldn't hear that.
That's why we don't do the thought bubbles.
Yeah, that's why we don't, because that would have been as funny. And there's also the times where, like, yeah, he was in the middle of writing his poems, and he actually does start saying his poems out loud as he's writing them. And as we mentioned, FOMO is really bad at writing love poems. But, like, Phone Bone is easily, like, my favorite of the three. I love this little guy. It's the reason he was my avatar for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, but now we get to, I believe Danny is your favorite, Phony Bone.
Yeah, the best character.
Yeah, Phony Bone is a riot. So Phony Bone is the oldest of the cousins, and his biggest thing is that he is a con man, and is the main reason they got ran out of Boneville. Because the funny thing is, when you read book 1, Smiley Bone actually mentions, like, yeah, the townspeople aren't even mad at me and Phone Bone, they're just mad at you. We just got you out of there because we're family.
Yeah, that's where it's like, I kid you not, like, and you definitely see this more, like, in the early comics, and every now and again, like, in some of the later ones, but, like, some of the funniest stuff that happens in this series is either happening because of Phony Bone, or it is happening to Phony Bone.
Yeah. Holy shit, it's Ed and an Eddie. You know what? That kind of is the dynamic here. That Phony absolutely is Eddie. Yeah, his favorite things in the world are, of course, scams, power, and cold hard cash. What he dislikes, of course, is losing money, rat creatures, and most of the valley. Some of his strengths is that he is a cunning schemer. He's very creative with, like, how he carries out his plots, but he also is a rather good judge of character. His weakness, God fucking hates him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
well, that's, like, you know, in some ways, like, you could say, like, the character archetype is, you know, he's the asshole with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Like, you could easily make that argument, you know, but then but again, there are just some moments, like, Yeah, when he gets to his schemes and such, where it's like, yeah, you were you made the comment about capitalism.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
and instead he gets tricked into getting Grandma Ben's laundry because he didn't wash
Yeah.
it yet.
Yeah, so it's like, oh god, like, I always thought he was a really funny character, and I think ultimately, what ultimately cemented him as my favorite, it was one joke that came like way later. I forgot what volume it was, but I think you know the scene I'm talking about, where it's like, not to give too much away, but it's like he's been captured by the bad guys.
Yes, I know what one you're talking about. It's
Yes.
it's book 6.
Okay, but there is a moment where he is captured by the bad guys, and oh my god, it was so funny what happens. Because it's like, and it ties back to the main plot too.
Yeah, it does.
It's just, like, very much so, but it's like, the end result of this joke, I'm just like, oh my god, I was laughing so hard. Like, I literally had to put the book down. I was laughing so much.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that was what cemented Phony Bone as my favorite character, just because he got that much of a reaction out of me.
Yeah, you know what? I think I have the perfect way to rename this weakness of his. So, Phony Bone's like actual biggest weakness is it's Murphy's Law. And anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Or in Phony's case, anything that can go wrong absolutely will go wrong. Like, I will say, another one of my favorite bits where that actually comes into place is actually the Great Cow Race, because he actually, like, is, like, scamming people into, like, oh, I can get ourselves out of debt-free from Lucius, and, if we actually rig this cow race for Grandma Ben to win it, and then all our debts will be forgiven with the mystery cow. And, like, everyone starts betting against Grandma Ben. Like, his scam actually starts working for a bit. And then Lucius comes along. And he's like, so I'm here to make a bet, Phony. You're making a bet? I'm betting the entire Barrel Haven Tavern. You are? Oh, yes. The whole entire facility is going on the bet. Oh, this is great. And I'm betting it on Grandma Ben to win. Wait, what? So he just starts running his smiley. It's like, okay, we have to win this now.
Oh god, yes.
Yeah. But you know what? Speaking of Smiley Bone,
Yes.
here he
you know
is.
what?
Yeah, so it kind of does like a bit of that one kind of gag where it's like, you see Smiley Bone out of the 3 is the tallest of them, but he's actually the youngest of the 3. But his favorite things are costumes, practical jokes, and music, as you could tell from the Telltale trailer when he's playing the old gray mare.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, the whole Great Cow Race scheme that Phony Bone was making up, the only reason Smiley Bone was on board for that scheme is because Phony Bone told him he would get in the cow suit. He even made the cow suit himself. Smiley Bone's not one who really dislikes a lot of things, personally. His strength is that he is very funny, he's very easygoing, and he's also rather reliable help. And his weakness is he's dumb, ? And the reason I say that is because, like, Smiley Bone absolutely is the silliest of them, but, like, the biggest common comment that is made by him by, like, other characters is that, oh, Smiley Bone has no brain. But there are times, though, where Smiley Bone can kind of get the one-up on people in rather unexpected ways. In fact, he actually conned his cousin Phony out of $1. Honestly, it's one of my favorite exchanges from the first book. It's something I still quote because it's just that good. It's just a really nice way to just already kick off the comic. Because, like, I can actually get a quick excerpt from that, because I love the setup for the joke. It is so freaking good.
Okay.
Man, some of these pages are kind of stuck together because the way that the pages are curled up. Man, this book really has seen better days. Okay, so yeah, they're lost out in the middle of the desert, and then you have Smiley who's like, hey cousins, look what I found. I think it's a map. Sure enough, looks like it's a map of that mountain range over there. I'm saved! Give it to me. Give me $1 first. What? Go on, Phony, give him $1. What? We're lost in the middle of the desert. Just give him $1. All right, fine. Hey, what is this? This map looks like it was drawn by a 5-year-old. This thing is worthless. It's worth $1. It's like, it's con to the con man. He can't be that stupid.
I know, that's it's like, those are like some good old like D&D shenanigans right there. Yeah, something tells me Smiley would make a great D&D player.
Dude, Smiley would 100% be a bard with that guitar. Yeah, it's like, all right, I'm gonna cast some. Oh, I know, I'm gonna cast some bardic inspiration. The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be. I just noticed the cigar has a kitty on the end. Oh, it's probably just because of the face. No, because some of the extra line work that's on there kind of makes a bit of a cat face on it. Yeah, Smiley Bone do be a silly guy. He does kind of lose the hat later on, though. He doesn't get to keep that, which is a bit sad. It's a fun, silly hat.
Malik says ad?
Yeah, it's we're going through an ad break right now.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it is a nice, silly little hat, but then it's like, nah, we're going to toss the hat aside. We don't need it anymore. It's like, oh, but it's a nice, silly hat. Just going to wait for the ad break before we actually move on to the next character, because it is almost over. There is one thing when it comes to Smiley Bone's like little smoking habit that he does have, though, and that's there's times where after when the cousins do get separated, Smiley actually does, and this is part of the thing where it's like, you know, why I add he's dumb question mark on, because it's rather interesting how every time Smiley Bone like finds himself getting lost from like say his cousins and whatnot, he's smart enough to leave like a trail of cigar butts so people can follow them and potentially find him. So it's like, now, again, it's like, it's part of, like, why I say, like, he's dumb, because, like, I know, that seems like a rather smart thing for him to do. And he does that very consistently.
Yeah, so very much like street smarts, not book smarts.
Oh, yeah. Alright, but now that we're back from the ad break, so time to talk about who was initially going to be the main character. So, meet Thorn Harvestar, which is Phone Bone's love interest. So, yeah, she is a young woman of the valley. She wants to assist Phonebone and his cousins returning home from Boneville, and maybe find out a couple more things about herself. Because throughout the story, we do start getting like some drops of things that Thorn may have faced at like when she was growing up. I was always bone smart, not money smart. I'm sure that's something Smiley said from time to time, and Phony's just like, I fucking hate you. Her favorite things are, of course, her grandma, the valley, and the farm. What she dislikes, rat creatures, the hooded one, and Phony Bone.
Of course.
Guys, don't forget, Bowman drop on January 7th. Definitely some of the best things about Thorn is that, yeah, she's very selfless, she's hospitable, and she's a very hardworking person. For her weaknesses, though, she's definitely emotionally charged, and that's something that we end up definitely seeing once we start reaching book 3. Once she starts actually learning a bit more about where she came from and, like, all the other things that were hidden from her, like, most of her life. Yeah. There's also another interesting fun fact about Thorn. Just this is actually stated that he intentionally made Thorn a rather complicated character to design. Probably in the case it's like, all right, time for the animation team to pick this up, and the animation team look at her design. I fucking hate you. We have to animate this. She hated ones in hoodies just like me. I get it. But yeah, it's like, I just also think it's rather interesting. It's like, yeah, like this was initially who our main characters were going to be until it was more so focused on the Bone Cousins themselves. Right. You know, the two of them at first.
Right. And honestly, like, I get that, you know, because even, like, yeah, like, when you say, like, when you read the comics, I mean, like, I would argue that, like, of all the characters, like, when it comes to, like, character development, I would probably argue Thorn gets the most character development because, like, she goes through a lot.
Mhm.
A lot of the story does center around her as well as the bones.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that, oh yeah, the story was originally supposed to be about her. Not surprised in the slightest.
Yeah. Which hooded ones? You'll see in a moment. Oh, the white hooded fellas or the black hooded fellas. What's the difference? Jesus Christ. Imagine the kind of story Bone would be if the white hooded people were a thing. Man, we haven't even gotten to the controversy section. But speaking of her grandma, here's Grandma Ben.
Yeah, probably my second favorite after Phony Bone.
Yeah,
I love Grandma Ben.
Yeah, Grandma Ben is great. But, so yeah, this is Thorn's grandmother. Like, she's very kind, she's very caring, and, she's also a very, very tough grandma. Like, she actually, like, dukes out with a couple of she actually dukes out with rat creatures with her bare hands.
It's like, yeah, don't fuck with Grandma.
Yeah, don't fuck with Grandma. She fought them in the war, you know. Her favorite things in the world are, of course, she likes Thorn, Lucius, and, of course, her cows. What she dislikes, rat creatures, the great red dragon, and anyone who disrespects her cows. Which one of them, of course, was Phony Bone. Grandma Ben, what happened? Cow games. Her strengths is that she's super strong, she's very wise, and yeah, she fought in a war. Her weakness, though, is that she does carry a lot of secrets about her, which, again, ties back into a little bit of Thorn's being, like, emotionally charged. Yeah, but Grandma Ben absolutely is a riot when, like, she does want to be funny. Yeah, in fact, when it comes to the Great Cow Race, to explain a little bit of that, so every single spring solstice, they hold this event at the spring festival known as the Great Cow Race, where Grandma Ben, on foot, races a bunch of cows in a cross-country race. And she wins every year.
It's like, don't fuck with Grandma.
Yeah. Absolutely don't fuck with Grandma. It's also Grandma Ben who actually would, there actually is another funny bit between her, Phone Bone, and Phony where she's teaching them how to serve chickens for dinner. And, like, the actual, like, old-fashioned way to do it. Where it's like, oh yeah, so how you do it is like, because yeah, you typically take a chicken, you end up boiling them in water so you can actually make it easier to pluck off their feathers, and then they're just like, wait, we're gonna boil them alive? It's like, well, no, we're not gonna boil them alive, we gotta cut their heads off first with a hatchet. It's like, well, wouldn't there be blood squirting around and stuff? And then
it's like, yeah, only just that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, for heaven's sake, if you can't handle a little flapping around, just grab the chicken by the neck and give her a good crank over the head. That'll kill her first. And that just makes Phone Bone and Phony fade over. It's like one of those things like, oh man, I love this food, but as soon as you hear how they're prepared, it's like, oh god, I could never do that.
It's like, oh, farm life.
Yep. Now we have Lucius, who, again, very interesting individual. Hold on. I was wondering why my music was really quiet. I thought it stopped playing for a bit. No, it was just kind of quiet. Okay. Grandma Ben got some Popeye arms. Make sure she don't go near the spinach. So yeah, Lucius down. Like, he's another important character who appears every now and then. But, yeah, he does own the Barrelhaven Tavern. He's a very well-respected figure of the Valley. And he's super protective of Grandma Ben and Thorn, something that you learn a bit more once you start learning more about his past in correlation to Grandma Ben as well as Thorn.
Yeah.
His favorite things are, of course, Grandma Ben, as well as all of Barrelhaven itself. Now, I will also state this. It's like, while the tavern he runs is known as Barrelhaven Tavern, the entire area in the valley that they live in is known as Barrelhaven. Like, that's not the name of the tavern. Yeah. Which, you know, I'm not gonna lie, Barrelhaven, I think, is a really good name for a tavern if you were to make one.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Things that he dislikes are rat creatures and Phony Bone. I wonder why. His strength is that he's very selfless, brave, and very empathetic, like, especially when it comes to Grandma Ben and Thorn. Like, there is a moment, like, in book 6 where, like, Thorn is, like, lost out where it's, like, heavily raining. And, like, Grandma Ben is wondering, like, so where exactly did Thorn go? And they start saying that, well, she just started running out on her own. And Lucius immediately looks at them all and says, I'll go look for her. And just goes looking for her without a second guess to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, probably his biggest weakness to him is that he is very self-doubting. And again, that's something you learn a bit more about him when you start exploring his backstory, and like some of the regretful decisions that he's made in his life oftentimes makes him double guess of whether or not he's actually made the correct choices in life. And also explains as well, like, why he's especially selfless when it comes to Grandma Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do really like Lucius. Like, he's a character I think definitely does grow on you after a while when you start learning a bit more about him.
Yeah, because it's like, like when, in the beginning of the series, you know, it's just like, you know, yeah, he's kind of cool and stuff, but it's like, yeah, really, like, when you start getting more into, like, the overall narrative, like, the overall story, and, yeah, like you said, you start getting some of the backstories and stuff, like, that's really when, like, that's when he starts to shine.
Yeah. I noticed that the characters' designs are very diverse and very animated. The human characters are also interestingly designed with a lot of different proportions and shapes. I definitely remember liking that about the comics when I read them. Yeah, like, that's, it's something I mentioned earlier when it came to, like, some of the art direction, where it's like, the human characters, while a number of them do look, like, realistically proportioned, they're also just enough of a caricature where it's like, you know, again, it's cartoony enough to where it's like it's pleasing to the eyes, but not so cartoony that you can't take it seriously.
Yeah, it's stylized.
Yeah, it's very stylized. It's very good. Ted the Bug. Yeah, he's Ted. He's a bug. And he knows lots of things people wouldn't suppose they'd know. Also, he's not a leaf. Do not call him a leaf. He hates that. He will get his brother. And, yeah, his favorite things in the world is everyone, except Phony Bone. In fact...
It's like, again, going back to Phony Bone, it's like, you would think that with a character where it's like, we're going through all these characters, and everybody just fucking hates Phony Bone. And I just love that!
Yeah, and in fact, so much so that Ted is actually one of the reasons why one of Phony's biggest schemes ended up going so horribly wrong. And I will be getting to that once we get to when we start talking about book 4, because it is really funny. His strengths, he's very knowledgeable and also very mobile too. Like, he hops like all over the place. And his weakness, he's just a little guy. He's kind of small. Now, Ted is also just kind of a character who just kind of like comes and goes every now and then. So it's like, not so much that, you know, when he just comes along, it's like, oh, right, you were a thing, but more so just like, oh, hey, he's back.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he just pops up every now and again. Like, it's sometimes, and especially like when the story really picks up, it's like you kind of forget about poor Ted.
Yeah, like, because he's kind of like out of the story for a little bit, just kind of shows up every now and then.
You know, but again, I think that's where it's like at the very beginning, he really does kind of serve a purpose as kind of being like a resident exposition. Like, he's one of the first people that like really starts talking about how the valley functions when the bones meet him.
Mm-hmm. Man, I can't believe it. We found the pet of the Speedwagon Foundation.
Ted the Bug.
Yeah. All right.
It's like if Ario's Speedwagon had a stand, it would be Ted the Bug.
Yeah. No, you see, it's like this Part 9 JoJo. We bring that bit back where it's like, oh, look, it's the Speedwagon Foundation. Is that a bug? The sad thing is, I totally see Iraqi doing something like that.
Yeah, who knows what's going on in that madman's brain?
Yep. But now, here's a great red dragon.
I just love the design of the dragon here, because it's like, it's not what you typically think of when you think dragon.
Yeah, no, in fact, every time, like, I'd show people, like, at my school the books, when we get to the Great Red Dragon, like, they initially thought, like, yo, that's a big-looking donkey.
He's like, nope, that's a dragon.
Yep, that's a dragon. He does breathe fire. The thing is, we never actually get, like, an official name for him. He's just literally called the Great Red Dragon by everybody. And I guess he just doesn't care enough to correct people on that. He's like, whatever. I can be Great Red.
He's been around for a while.
Yeah, a very, very long time. One of his favorite things is messing with Phonebone. So, like, yeah, he does occasionally, like, protect and bail Phonebone out of issues every now and then when he was awakened in the first book. But one of the things that he absolutely does love doing every now and then is just messing with Phonebone's head. Like, there is a bit where, like, because Phonebone's trying to convince everybody, like, yo, I saw this big, giant red dragon, like, somewhere in the woods, and everyone's just, and, like, Thorn is just like, well, there's no such thing as dragons. They aren't real. And, like, Phonebone's, like, trying so hard to convince her, like, being like, yeah, but he had, like, these big ears, like, they were kind of fluffy, he could breathe fire, and then he's just like, yeah, well, that's what the dragons want you to think. They want you to think that he doesn't exist. And he just pokes his head out of the well to look at Phonebone and go, actually, I just wanted to think you're nuts. The things that he dislikes, of course, are the rat creatures, the hooded one, and the Lord of the Locusts. And his strengths, I mean, come on, he's a dragon. Do I need to say anything else? Man is a big, giant Durgan. I don't really think he has so much of, like, a character flaw with him. Like, at the very most, he is kind of mysterious. You don't really know too much about him, but, like, I mean, again, dragon.
Right.
Guy's just a big, giant Durgan. I don't think you need any more explanation out of that. And now for the rat creatures, also known as the hairy men by the valley people. So, they are an entire race of monsters who will hunt in packs and basically just devour anything that they can kind of run across, including people. They have, in fact, like, attacked actual, like, people and villages and whatnot. Like, they can be kind and nasty. Like, their favorite things in the world is hunting, meat, and quiche, but only one of them. Only one rat creature in particular is, like, a big quiche fan. What they disliked are dragons, humans, and the rest of them dislike quiche, because monsters don't eat quiche! Their strengths are that, yeah, they are very strong. They are deadly when they're, like, in an army together, and they do have very great hunting instincts. Their weakness, they're dumber than Smiley Bone. Look back to stupid rat creatures.
Rat creatures. Like, yeah, like, again, that is such an iconic moment.
Yeah. It's like, those rat creatures have to be pretty stupid to try to chase me on this frail branch. Stupid rat creatures! But yeah, the rat creatures, like, it's definitely something where it's like, the rat creatures, when you first meet them, and particularly two of them that you meet early on, they are kind of like a little silly every now and then, because it's like, you kind of show, like, how dumb that they are, but once this story starts to go into a bit of a tone change, they can show just how threatening they are when they are in a pack.
Yeah.
And now for their leader, King Dog, this big boy. He is a giant rat creature. Very big. So he is the king of the rat creatures, and he's much bigger, he's stronger, smarter, and much more tactical than his other followers. So, like, he's kind of where, like, all of their brain cells went to. His favorite things, of course, he does like food, he likes destruction. What he dislikes, dragons, humans, and incompetent henchmen, and particularly two of them. His strengths is that he's very strong, tactical, and, like, currently, like, in the story of Bone, he's the biggest out of all of them. But his biggest weakness is that he is very full of himself, and you do see that throughout the story, that he does kind of start making a downfall because of his hubris. Like, he gets a little too full of himself and ends up biting off more than he can chew, and you do just slowly start seeing him, like, losing a lot of, like, the great status that he used to have as king of the rat creatures. Yeah. Oh, you know what, Dawning Heart? You're right. He's the big rat who makes all of the rules. And now here's a baby.
Aww.
Yep. This is Bartleby.
I love this little guy.
Yeah, Bartleby's a baby rat creature cub. That's what they look like when they're just simply babbies. But, yeah, when we meet Bartleby, he's definitely a lot different from some of the other rat creatures because, for one thing, he doesn't want to eat the Bone Cousins. In fact, look at him. He's just leaning against Phone Bone. He's just like, hello, friend. In fact, yeah, some of his favorite things is that, yeah, Smiley Bone and sandwiches, because he definitely forms the closest bond with Smiley Bone. In fact, it's actually where a lot of Smiley Bone's character development comes from, is when Bartleby comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, cause you know, you just, I'm your little buddy. I'm your pet now. And Smiley's like, I love this little guy. We kind of have to take him back to his people. No.
Yep, so the Bones get a little rat creature.
Yep. Dislikes the other rat creatures. Some of his strengths, he is very strong because he's a rat creature. He's empathetic, and he does really like to cuddle, so, cuddle buddy.
Yeah.
And weakness,
So,
he's just a little guy.
Yeah. So, funny story, as far as, D&D goes, because I know, yeah, you made a D&D character based entirely on your love of the Bone series.
Yeah, that's where Axe's Bone came from.
Yeah, so, like, you made a Bone character, and then, you know, for having, like, a little animal companion, you gave him a little baby rat creature, and you named him Jeff.
I did, after the creator of the series. By the way, I do want to mention, Bartleby has a plush. And it is official.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah, in fact, I will show it to you, Danny, and then I will show it to the stream chat, because this plush is precious.
Oh my god! Oh my god, that's so precious!
Yeah, this is official. You can actually buy this.
Oh my god! That is so cute!
He's just a little guy. He's nice and fluffy. Don't you want to just give this boy a hug? Yeah, it's like, Jeff, I would like 50.
That's like, get an animated series, those sales will go up!
Yeah, seriously. I already see people like so fluffy. They want this plushie so bad. Like, you know what? He's adorable enough. But yeah, just hide that. But yeah, yeah, Bartleby just a little baby. He's a little guy. He's precious and adorable. You will love him. You will love him. You will cherish him. You will relinquish all mortal possessions due to Bartleby. Alright. Now for this big boy.
Rockjaw.
Yeah, Rockjaw. No, rock, you're not rolling the R. Unfortunately, I can't roll my R's. I'm very bad at it.
No, I can't either.
Yeah, if Ryan were here, he absolutely could.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Even when I had to take Spanish in, like, 7th and 8th grade, I could never, like, trill or roll my R's.
Yeah. So Rockjaw is someone who we're introduced to in the 5th book. In fact, it's entirely named after him, where we enter, like, the eastern border. And, his personality is that he very much looks on things with a very nihilistic look. Like, he isn't, like, in fact, one of the big speeches that he just kind of makes is that it's like, you know, life doesn't give a single crap about you. Like, you could literally die this day, the sun will just rise and fall like it does every other day, so, like, it doesn't matter. Nature doesn't care about what lives in it. Nature is just nature, so just, yeah, nothing matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, some of his favorite things, he likes his mountains, and he also likes his peace and quiet. What he dislikes is rat creatures, and especially dragons. In fact, he makes that very clear that, you know, this guy absolutely hates dragons when he says that he hates them more than the rat creatures. Because, like, the way that he's described the rat creatures is that, actually, you know what, if I can actually get to it, I'll actually just quote him word for word on it. Because, yeah, this man has opinions. Oh, yeah, so, yeah, as he says, like, now, what was I saying? Ah, yes, The rat creatures are vermin. They are a pox. They're a pestilence. And every day more of them arrive from power and run amok in my beautiful mountains. And the fact that that's how he describes the rat creatures, and he still hates dragons more than that just because of the whole story about how the valley was created. And he's like, it feels like that's just pompous fairy tale crap.
Yeah.
His strengths, giant mountain lion. I mean, do I need to say anything more?
Yeah.
But his weakness is he will never be your friend. He does not want to be friend. In fact, he will tell you how much life sucks and that you should just get used to the fact that it sucks. But yeah, like, especially, like, in terms of, like, scale, like, look how big he is compared to Phone Bone and Smiley Bone.
Yeah.
This cat is huge. Now, the Hooded One. This is our main antagonist of the story. And I have dinner with me? Oh, nice. So, this is the leader of the rat creatures. And they have a great ambition that involves the entire world. Again, something you start to figure out the more that you end up looking into the story. Her favorite things are conquest and power. And yes, I do mean her, because it is eventually learned that the Hooded One is female. Her major dislikes is that she dislikes dragons and Grandma Ben. Again, you start to see why. Strengths, she's overly powerful, seemingly immortal, and all-seeing. And her biggest weakness is jealousy, which is something you see especially when it comes to book 6.
Yeah.
Oh God, Armin, no. I don't want to imagine that, please. Screw it, doing the Jake, the Hooded One. Hello, bony fans. Oh God. We do. Listen, I don't think the Bone Cousin need an OnlyFans. Could you imagine the kind of things Phony would put on that?
He'd con the site if he could.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you want some great material from my OnlyFans account? And then you just look at it. The guy's just in an inflation suit. Well, you see, Smiley, they're onto us. But yeah, like, the Hooded One is definitely something that we start getting more and more information on as the story starts going along, but at the moment, they're just kind of a mysterious presence. Always lingering, always watching, always scheming. And initially, her biggest thing is that she is looking for the one who bears the star. I wonder who that would be.
Again, just read the comic if you haven't to get the full context. But it's like, yeah, when you get to that volume, and oh man, it is hysterical.
Yeah. Bears the star. Oh no, she's Nemesis. I just want to see the Hooded One just suddenly pop up in front of Phone Mode and Thor just be like, stars.
See, somebody needs to mod that.
Yes, it's just the Hooded One replacing Nemesis in Resident Evil 3.
And then, like, replace, like, Jill with, like, Phony.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, just mod Resident Evil games into the Phone series.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be. You know what? That'd probably be the only instance you would see Phony Bone shooting people with a gun. Or in Marvel. You know what? You could put him in Marvel.
It's Marvel, baby.
Yep. And now, the Lord of the Locust. Now, while I said the Hooded One is like the main antagonist of the story, the Lord of the Locust is like the major player when it comes to everything the Hooded One does. So, the Lord of the Locust is a powerful nightmare being who brought the Hooded One back to life. His powerful influence is spread throughout the valley. Not much is known about the Lord of the Locust, not even his true form, but he has been an enemy of the dragons for many years, and the day the Lord of the Locust can return to the physical world will be known as the end of time. So, So again, if we're thinking like Lord of the Rings parallels, Lord of the Locusts definitely fills the role of someone like, say, Sauron.
Yeah.
Like the Lord of the Locusts is like the Lord of the Locusts is definitely like radiates a lot of the Sauron energy, like especially when you consider the relationship with the Hooded One.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, for a couple of important terms to keep in mind when we actually start getting into some of the books. So there are some things that they do end up bringing up that do correlate throughout the rest of the series as the plot starts to progress. So the dreaming. This is actually a unique religion that was made up for the story of Bone, and essentially, what the dreaming is known as to those who follow its teachings is that it is a spirit world in which all life is born and eventually must return to. So basically Sailor Chaos / the Galaxy Cauldron. Yeah, pretty much. Then we have the Venu, also known as the Venien. They are holy monks who are trained in the art of dreaming. The Valley people call them stick eaters. Because they tend to walk around carrying sticks. Hello, Cece. You're just in time for us to talk about bone stuff. Hello, kitty. And don't worry, Cece. The rat creatures are gone. Although I'm sure you could probably take them. Let's see. Do you want it on my lap, Cece? Is that what it is? Yeah, there you go. You want it on the lap. There you go. That's a huge stick. Dream Masters. Those are Venien warriors who have mastered many layers of dreaming. You don't really get to see too many of them until, like, way later in the story. But, like, basically think of these guys as, like, your wizards. Yeah. Then,
your wizards, your Jedi.
Yep. Then we have the Venien Kyrie. This is a title given to one whose dreaming eye is more awakened than another. We're beginning to learn a bit more about that when we start actually covering the individual books themselves. Go circles. Those are invisible circles that can teleport living beings to another world. Now, initially, what people thought happened in the Bone series is that if you were to step in a ghost circle, they thought you just straight up disappeared from existence. You know, until later on when we get a book entirely dedicated to talking about the ghost circles, it's like, oh no, you step in one and you're just kind of trapped in another world. And then we have the Knights of Lightning, which is the title of a vicious rat creature attack that left many people dead. And it does get brought up, like, every now and then, like, especially in books 3 and 4. Now, some important locations, because we do visit some of these places quite a bit. So the first off, of course, we have the main destination the Bone Cousins want to get back to, and that's Boneville, which is, of course, home of the Bone Cousins. Not much is revealed, but seems to be described similarly to modern civilization. And that's one thing that I will say, I think is probably the weirdest thing when it does come to Bone. It's that we never actually see Boneville. We never actually see what it looks like.
Yeah, not even a flashback or anything. Like, you know, we hear them talk plenty about Boneville. And yeah, like where you say, like, modern civilization. So they're they talk about schools, they talk about, like, positions of government and, you know, all this other stuff. And then it's like, yeah, not once do we see it.
Yeah.
At least not, like, do we see it in the sequel series?
Nope.
Damn.
Yeah, not even in the epilogues. Like, the most that we get is, like, Smiley Bone, like, taking a couple, like, Bone Scouts out into the woods and hiking. But even then, that's not even in Boneville.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, we never actually get to see what Boneville looks like. Then we have the main area where all this takes place, and that's the valley. This is the main setting of our story. Like, it's surrounded by 2 mountains. It's filled with lush green, clean waters, and an old-fashioned town full of farmers. So this is where everything else kind of, like, takes place in the middle of the story. And what I feel like is rather interesting, because of the fact that we never do see Boneville, we're only described, like, how it is that we look, how it looks like. Because like Danny said, they have schools, they have, like, positions of government, they have fast food chains. One of them apparently being called Pizza in a Cup. But But it's like, it's so interesting because when you compare it to the Valley is like way more old tradition, where it's like, here they have no idea what cash or money is. Like, their economy is all based on trading goods and services like it used to be back in the day. So it kind of makes you wonder just how far ahead in civilization that Boneville is compared to, well, the world full of people.
Right.
Yeah, then we have Barrel Haven. That's the name of the farm village in the valley that we take place in a lot in. There's Darengard, which is home of the dragons in the Western Mountains. Tanengard, the dragon's sacred burial ground, and is punishable by death for anyone to trespass onto Tarengard who is not a dragon. Old Man's Cave, which is a secret training ground for the Venu. There's Paua. We don't necessarily get to see the city itself, but we do see the people of Paua, because these are warriors that are full of people that are loyal to the Locust. So they do eventually join the Hooded One on their conquest. And then there's the Kingdom of Athia, which is an ancient kingdom that worships the Dreaming.
Okay.
I had a pizza in a cone once. Oh, neat. Hello, Cece. You chilling out? I see you chilling out. Now, to talk about the books proper. So we start out with book 1 out from Boneville. And it basically, the first thing that it immediately does is that it introduces us to the Bone Cousins as well as the dynamic that they have with each other. Like, there's like barely any pages that you get into, and you already get a full grasp on how it is that the Bone Cousins, like, interact with one another. Like, it immediately establishes their characters, and it does it very well, and also just very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, again, this is the part where I mentioned where Smiley Bone cons Phony out of a single dollar. We also enter the valley for the first time. We're introduced to a number of different characters, such as, like, we're introduced to Ted, the Great Red Dragon. We see the rat creatures. We see Thorn, Grandma Ben, Lucius, and we do get glimpses of the Hooded One. We learn more about the valley and why the Bone Cousins were run out of Boneville. And the reason why is because Phony Bone tried running for mayor in Boneville and botched the whole campaign. In fact, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get Phone Bone's retelling of what exactly happened. Because it's one of those stories where it's like, oh, this seems like it's starting out great. And then you can just kind of see the turns where it's like, oh, I see where this stuff is going down. Because it's just like, oh, it really is just one of those stories that you just hear FOMO tell. You just expect them to be like, but wait, it gets worse.
It's like, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah, so it's like, Phony decided he was going to run for mayor. His campaign slogan was, and I've got the money to do it too. Yeah, and it's also established too, like, he mentions that it's like, yeah, anybody can run for mayor, like, even Phony. And then Grandma Ben's like, that greedy little loudmouth, not in my town, he couldn't. Yeah, but then he actually starts telling the story, and he goes, well, he can in Boneville. Anyway, he wanted to make an official announcement, a big social event. So he decided to throw a picnic down in the banks of the Rolling Bone River. There's a beautiful park there with green sloping lawns that stretch to the edge of the water. That's just far enough away from the hustle and bustle downtown Boneville that there wouldn't be any distractions. Phony invited everyone in town and even promised free food for anyone who showed up. Pretty soon the picnic was to talk to the town. Then the big day arrived and the whole town turned out. The kids were playing under the trees and the women wore sunbonnets and fancy dresses. The picnic was off to a perfect start. There's a statue in the park of Boneville's founder, Big Johnson Bone, and since my cousins and I are descendants of his, Phony wanted to make his announcement in front of the statue. And just to add to the festivities, Phony had a 50-foot balloon made of himself. The balloon was tied to old Big Johnson. Everything was going great. Folks were listening to the Firehouse Band and enjoying the sunshine. The food was passed out, and there were plenty of prune tarts for everyone. Prune tarts? Yeah, Phony. He got a good deal. Phony. He got a good deal on some prunes from a discount prune broker. So anyway, he makes the announcement, right? He gets up and declares his candidacy for the mayor of Boneville. That's when a gust of wind came off the river and pulled the balloon loose. The statue came off its base and was dangling off the balloon's ankle. All of a sudden, this giant inflatable phony bone starts moving towards the crowd. Yeah, it was amazing! My first grade teacher, Miss Crabbone, was the first to panic. She started screaming and running back and forth. The balloon chased her into the river before Smiley and I could let the air out of it. It was awful. Everyone was stunned at first. Nobody moved. They just sat there with this look of horror on their face. And that's when they ran you out of town? No, that's when the bad prunes kicked in. Yeah, he blew the budget! Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Phony Bone blew the budget on that air balloon alone. So, yeah, that's the story of how they got ran out of Mobile, because Phony tried running for mayor, and then a giant gust of wind came off, took the campaign balloon, and it started chasing people around Boneville, and it's at the very last moment they realized, oh no, the prune tarts we were given, the prunes were bad. Phony, you gave them poisoning.
Cheap bastard.
Yeah. Yeah. We also, of course, hear... This is also the first instance where we hear about, you know, the one who bears the star thing that the rat creatures and the hooded one are all on about. And, of course, this all relates back to Phony. Like you said, Murphy's Law. Exactly. That is Phony's greatest weakness. But this is also the first that we do hear about the Great Cow Race, which helps to set up for the second book in the series, The Great Cow Race. Now... This one is definitely more on, like, the sillier side of things. Like, not too many, like, big, serious things happen. Like, it's more so just here where it's like, Jeff Smith wants to show you that he can be a very funny man.
Yeah.
And dear God, can he be a funny man.
And you know what? And it works perfectly because, you know, I say this with, you know, animated series and such as well. That's just like, yes, you can have your drama and your tension and your angst and such, but it's like, if you really want it to mean something and for it to really be powerful, you've got to throw some humor in there too. Like, you need to, you really need to show, like, you know, you need to show moments of happiness and silliness so that when the bad stuff happens, you instantly care a hell of a lot more because you got to know everybody when everything was all light, happy, silly, you know. So that's where, like, you know, whenever you get, like, a show that's, like, you know, oh, it's constant downers or something, it's like, that, like, it would probably take a very, very talented writer to be able to pull that off and have that remain interesting. I mean, even Game of Thrones, which is chock full of all kinds of horrors and drama and such, know when to throw in a funny quip. Thank you, Tyrion Lannister. So it's just like, you know, like, your best artists know how to bring in some level of humor in to break the tension.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a number of things that happen here. So it's the start of the Spring Solstice Festival, where, like, all the farmers from, like, all across the valley come along, start trying to sell their wares. This is where Phony tries to create the mystery cow scam. By the way, the cow costume you see Smiley wearing, that's the mystery cow costume he gets in for the scam. He made it himself. We also have numerous instances of Phonebone trying to impress Thorn, because as we established, Phonebone loves the Thorn, and he does get into a fight with one of the sellers, specifically a honeycomb seller. And hold on, I need to see if I can get a particular panel with him, because we see Phonebone's true strength. Let's see here. I want to see if I can okay, well, we do see a bit where where, like, we first see Smiley in the costume, and Phonebone's like, "Why is Smiley wearing a cow costume? I'm not Smiley. I'm a real cow." God damn it. Okay, so I'm not exactly finding the bit, but luckily I can try to see if I can get a good shot of it with the camera, because with the webcam, because I do have the page open to it. So let's see if I can get to the cam here. So here you go. That's Foam Bone. The Foam Bone's muscles. They big. Makes you wonder why he keeps falling down so many cliffs. Yeah. This boy got guns. But yeah, he does unintentionally embarrass Thorn in front of the guy, and it does end up, like, the two of them kind of having a bit of their spat, which, honestly, I do kind of like as well, because it does show a little bit of a... Again, it shows a bit of that flaw that Foam Bone has, where it's like, the guy has, like, no inner voice. Like, any thought that he has, he will always voice it out loud. And it can sometimes net him into trouble.
Okay, so Dawning Heart says high strength, low luck.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where it's like he rolls nat ones.
Oh god, he's got the Will Wheaton dice curse. But this is also the start where we start learning about this is where we start seeing Phony Bone facing his karma, where he faces his ultimate arch enemy, Murphy's Law. Because he does get found out that he did try to scam people out of their livestock. But something that also comes up in this chapter is that, so the map that Smiley Bone found at the beginning of the series, so Foam Bone is actually the one who ends up, like, holding on to that map, and then eventually finding his way into the valley, and he ends up showing it to Thorn, who, weirdly enough, kind of gets a bit of a... She kind of starts feeling like it's a bit familiar to her, and we start learning, like, you know, okay, so what's going on with this map? Like, why does it look like it was drawn by a 5-year-old? Turns out it literally was. It was made by Thorn when she was 5 years old. So it's kind of there where it's like it's probably like the only instance, like, in the Great Cow Race, where it's like it does kind of like break away from like all the funny to like put in a couple of threads plot threads that we end up visiting a bit later.
Yeah, because literally, like, yeah, you read. It's like we said, like, the first book is, you know, introduction. Second book, straight up comedy. Pretty much after this is where a lot of the drama starts.
Yep. In fact, rather appropriately, it is book 3 is known as Eye of the Storm. So, in the first book, Grandma's farmhouse ends up getting ransacked by an attack on the rat creatures because they think one of the bones is there, particularly the one who bears the star. So they end up surrounding the farm and they start trying to take the thing down. It's also there we see Grandma Ben just yanking 2 rat creatures from outside of the farm building just to beat the crap out of them.
Don't fuck with Grandma.
Yep, but it's in this book, yeah, the farmhouse it's rebuilt, but it's also where the new tone starts to set in. We also learn a bit more about the ghost circles, and the rat creature attacks start becoming a lot more frequent, and also a bit more organized. Which seems a bit on the weird side, you know, almost as if someone else is pulling the strings behind the scenes. Phony and Smiley begin to work to pay off their debts to the Barrel Haven Tavern. And then we also get the reveal of Thorn and Grandma Ben's past getting unveiled. Like, we start actually getting a bit more into, like, what exactly they were, like, way before they moved into the valley. The kind of lives that they ended up living. And, just all the things Grandma Ben just kept secret from Thorn. And it's at this point we do start to see, like, Thorn's trusting Grandma Ben just coming into question. Because now it's like, you kept all these things a secret from me my whole life. Now I don't know who I should be trusting now.
Right.
This is also the point where Lucius and Phony end up making a bet at the Barrel Haven Tavern. Because Phony questions Lucius's ability to successfully run a bar. And then, basically the bet ends up being, alright, fine. You think you're so much better than me? Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna divide... So here's what's gonna end up happening. I'm gonna divide the table into 2. One's gonna be my side, one's gonna be your side. And they're going to be able to order ale from either one of our sides of the bar. And whoever gets the most customers to pay us will win the bet. If you win, you're off debt-free. If I win, you're working for me for the rest of your life. And Phony takes him up on that bet, which, unfortunately,
he does.
Yeah, but unfortunately, this is during the time when the Valley people, the time when the Valley people were just scammed by Phony Bone.
Yes, yeah. It's not working in his favor.
Yeah, Smiley Bone even tried pulling on a puppet show, and they still wouldn't come to their side. We then start learning a bit more about the lore of the Locust, as well as the dreaming and what exactly that is. We're first introduced to a Venian warrior, and it's also the first mention of the lost kingdom of Athia. So, again, just putting in a couple more of those plot threads that they eventually, get to later. Yeah, this is around here is the turning point where, the tone of the story really starts to set in, where things do start to get darker, things do start to get a bit more dreary, which I think some people have argued is probably the reason why Bone kind of hasn't really been getting picked up mostly in adaptation, because it's the first two books. Now, the first two books, they are, a bit more, on the down-to-earth kind of thing. There is, the big, tense, rat creature attack on the farm, on Grandma Ben's farm in the first book that happens, but, nothing that gets too out of hand. It's really at this point where, the overall tone changes, and there's just some people who think maybe that's kind of the reason why some companies are so hesitant to pick up Bone as an adaptation, because Bone, for the longest time, has been generally seen as, a kid's storybook, but Jeff Smith never wanted it to be seen as children's entertainment. He doesn't want to write for kids. He wanted to write something that, all kind of ages could enjoy, but because Bone oftentimes gets marketed as something for kids, when they do get to Eye of the Storm and see where the actual tone gets set, and they're just like, oh, how do we make this more friendly? It's probably the reason why Telltale only did the first two books.
Yeah, because it's again, don't be fooled by the silly Bone people. Because it's yeah, when you look at that design, it's that is the kind of design you would expect out of a children's story and stuff. But then, like you said, the new tone sets in, so it's yeah, if book one is the introduction and the second book is all the comedy and stuff, it's from book 3 onwards, it feels like it's a completely different story.
Yeah, in fact, just to really show you how much the tone changes, there's a point in the story where Grandma Ben actually kills a rat creature with her bare hands.
Yeah, so I mean, it's they're not fucking around. So yeah. It's I think maybe that, yeah, so to your point, I can see where maybe that's where people are it throws them off completely. Wait a minute, this is what we signed up for? Yes, and we have 6 more volumes of this.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of reminds me a little bit of when 4Kids has eventually stopped dubbing for One Piece, because One Piece eventually starts going to places where it's I don't know how we make this kid-friendly.
One Piece went all kinds of directions.
Yeah.
It's yeah, no, don't be fooled by the art style or anything. That is, too heavy for kids.
Yeah. So now we get to book 4, Dragon Slayer. So at the end of this, when Grandma Ben finishes telling everybody, telling Thorn and Phonebone, everything that they were going on, she starts realizing, okay, it's not safe being here in the farm anymore. They know where we are. They're gonna try to hunt us here. We need to get out of here before they can make their attack and most likely put us in a position where we cannot escape with our lives. Because the way that the rat creatures are attacking ends up reminding her very similarly to their one previous attack known as the Knights of Light Night. So they're doing that tactic. So Grandma Ben wants to get out of Dodge as quickly as possible with Phonebone and Thorn. And she wants to set her off to bringing them to Old Man's Cave, hoping that that's going to give them better shelter, since that's where the Venian warriors are. And they're trained to fight off those things. It's then Phonebone starts to conduct another new scam of his that starts to actually go off relatively well when he convinces the Valley people that dragons are evil. and he appoints himself as the Valley's Dragon Slayer, and the Valley people eat that shit up. This is
again. It's like, it's so weird, but it's like, because I'm usually not drawn to asshole characters, but I fucking love Phony Bone. That's like, I know we talk about like, if this was like adapted, like if we got like an animated thing out of this or something that's like, as much as I adore Phony Bone, I can just imagine social media just fucking hating this character. I mean, that's like, if how the internet reacted to Jax in episode 2 of Amazing Digital Circus is any indication.
Yeah. Well,
it's like,
I will say this, like, I'd say Phony Bone, I think, is a bit better handled than Jax, at least as of currently now. And the way that I've actually heard, like, someone describing Jax, I think it was my buddy Ontario who described it, and it's that regardless how much of an asshole that Jax is in Amazing Digital Circus, he never gets any repercussion for it. And no, Ragatha just going, Jax, isn't repercussion.
Right. Well, also bear in mind, we're only 2 episodes in. So
yeah.
It's like, yeah, so I mean, it's still way too early to really, like, say for certain about that. But that's where it's like, I just remembered again, like, with Digital Circus, everyone was like, wait a minute, the asshole character is actually an asshole? It's
yeah,
like,
I know, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
So if Bone had an adaptation, it's like, well, yes, you do get some more backstory behind with Phony, and that's why I do say he does fall into, the asshole with a heart of gold, but it's like, yeah, in these first few books with him, it's like, yeah, he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, but on top of that, it's like I mentioned, his ultimate nemesis is Murphy's Law. Like, he will always get his comeuppance.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, could you imagine how much more unbearable Phony would be if he just got away with his scams every single time?
This is true, yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like he'd be a lot more unbearable, so, like, at the very least, like, because of that, it's like, okay, at the very least, he gets what's coming to him.
Mm-hmm.
But, so yeah, he appoints himself as the Valley's Dragon Slayer, and funny enough, that actually does start helping him get an advantage over Lucius in the bet. Everyone starts ordering ale from his side now, because I'm gonna kill the dragons for you. Yeah, and, just remember, he's going after guys like this. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna slay that, don't you worry, I got it. This is also the start where King Doc does start to fall a little bit from his glory. Like, this is where we start seeing his hubris catch up a little to him. And, remember when we were talking about the absolute tonal change that comes from the Eye of Storm? Well, by the time Dragon Slayers comes along, Thorn actually hacks off King Doc's arm with her sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole arm gets cut off, and also, Foam Bone is bleeding from the head, so yeah, there is a bit of blood in this. I told you, the tone change goes crazy. This is also where Thorn and Grandma Ben also have their falling out to the point where they do start separating from each other. Because, again, Thorn started to have trust issues with her entire past being kept hidden from her up until this point. This is also the point where we are introduced to Bartleby, the baby rat creature. Yep. Smiley and Foam Bone do start to look after Bartleby. It's also here we're reminded why God finds Phony his least favorite. because, so I mentioned Ted earlier. So,
Yeah.
Phony has a plan to try to get himself out of the valley with all of their livestock, their expenses, their jewelry, so he can run back into Boneville as the richest in the entire town. And he was going to be doing this behind all the valley people's backs, basically robbing them all blind. So he tries to distract them by having them set up a big trap for the dragons, and the trap that he has them be like, just have a giant rope. They'll walk into it, and they'll just get snagged by the rope. Like, just a blatantly obvious trap that just looks so badly put together. But of course, again, the Valley people are eating this shit up, so of course they follow him.
Yeah, it's like this, the obvious trap to distract from the real trap.
Yep. So, so then Ted comes along and he starts wondering, like, yo, Phony Bone, what's going on here? It's like, hey, I'm doing this as a scheme to get myself out of here and be the richest in Boneville again. And then while he's talking to Ted, explaining what he's doing and what he's gonna, what his whole scam is, suddenly you hear a thwump from the trap, and all the Valley people start running to Phony. They're like, we got one! We got one! What do you mean you got one? We got a real dragon! What? And you just see the great red dragon just tied in this rope.
Yeah, they got a dragon.
And then Ted just comes back to Phony. He's like, oh, hey, Phony, what are you doing? It's like, what are you doing back here? What did you do? Well, you see, I thought it'd be more realistic of a distraction if we had a real dragon. Ted! Once again, Murphy's Law strikes again. And like, yeah, and as they have the dragon ensnared, like the Valley people are like, okay, Dragon Slayer, we have our dragon, do your job now. You need to kill this thing like you said that you would. And like Phony's trying to come up with every possible excuse imaginable to be like, now hold on. We're not talking about skinning a rabbit here. This is a dragon. These things are mystical and magical. We got to do this right to set balance to the world. And like the Valley people are getting super impatient with it. And like again, he's trying to come up with more excuses to try to keep himself from like actually killing this dragon that has saved their lives countless of times. And once again, Murphy's Law comes in where he's just like, yeah, it has to be done at a certain time of day, otherwise it's not gonna fix anything. And then he just stands so proudly, he's like, the heavens themselves will determine, and the sun starts to rise, and he's like, oh no. It's like, how did everything go so wrong? But then after this is when we so luckily the Great Red Dragon does not get sacrificed, but what we are informed though is that at this point onward, the Great Red Dragon and all the other dragons in the world will no longer be assisting in the war against the Locust. They are going to be staying underground for essentially the remainder of the story. So like for a long while we don't see any of the dragons anymore.
Right, yeah.
So this is the point where it's like, okay, you guys are on your own right now, which, in a way, again, if we're going back to Lord of the Rings, if you want to draw some parallels, you can kind of compare it to, like, say, how the Eagles are in Lord of the Rings, where they were kind of like the Deus Ex Machina of the stories. Like, anytime, like, they needed help, oh, here come the Eagles to save the day. But, like, here, the dragons are the ones now going underground because of a decision made by the council. And now, they no longer have their Deus Ex Machina. They have to do everything on their own wits now, which, again, raises the tension.
Right.
Yeah. And then we get to Book 5, which, funny enough, was actually the first book I read of the series.
Oh, geez, she really started in the middle of it.
Which, you know, wouldn't be the first time I've done something like that. My first Metal Gear game was Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of the Patriot. Yeah, Sons of the Patriots.
Oof.
So, yeah, I had a fun time trying to understand the story of that game. But, so for Book 5, so this is actually one where we are more so focusing again back on Phone Bone and Smiley Bone. In fact, they're the only, like, reoccurring characters that we see throughout this entire story. Like, we don't see Grandma Ben, we don't see Thorn, we don't see any other Valley people. It all takes place on the eastern border. But this is where we are introduced to Rockjaw. As well as, we're also given a bit more history on the valley itself and how it was created. And we're also given mention of who is known as Mim, who is the queen of the dragons. So, it was a long, long time ago when the Dreaming was young. And there was a dragon known as Mim, who was a very long serpentine dragon who was the queen of her the species. She would hold her tail in her mouth to form a complete circle between her entire body. And when she held this position, the dreaming was considered stable. And because of that, life started becoming started to be created. Like, man started to form, nature was forming, other animals were forming. Basically, the dreaming was creating the entire world as long as Mim would acquire this balance. But there was another force of nature, known as the Lord of the Locusts, who was a nightmare spirit who was rather unsettled with everything, with all the creation that was happening, and desired more power. But the only way to do so and to move into the living world, they had to take over a physical mortal host. And the host that they chose was the Queen of the Dragons, Mim, who ended up becoming corrupted by the mind of the Lord of the Locusts and was driven mad. The dragons then had to band together in order to stop their mad queen. The battle was ravenous. Many dragons lost their lives, and it ultimately shaped the mountains themselves that would end up forming the eastern and western borders and also creating the valley. So the entire valley was created because of the battle that the dragons had with just against their queen. Everything they did against her, nothing was stopping her. So the only thing that they could do was they turned their queen into stone. And now her stone-cold body, with the Lord of the Locusts resting inside it, unable to escape, now rests beneath the valley itself. And Rockjaw hears that entire story and is like, that's some fairy tale bullshit.
This was a story about funny boat people.
Yeah, the story about funny white men with big noses. How did it get so deep? But this is also the start of where Smiley Bone's character development starts coming in. Because, again, he starts forming like a very big parental bond with Bartleby. So he does, this is sort of like where we see a bit more of the mature side of Smiley coming in. And we do see him starting to come into his own as he looks after him. In fact, he's the one who names the baby rat creature cub Bartleby. It's like, remember, Smiley, when you name things, you get attached to them.
Right.
It also comes into one of the funniest jabs at Moby Dick I think the book has ever done. Because Smiley and Bartleby are done like having their sandwiches, and then Phonebone pulls out his book to read, and then Smiley's like, "Oh, would you read us some Moby Dick? I want to teach the little guy how to take a nap after lunch."
Yes.
It's like, "Hey, this is a work of art, not a sleeping aid. Ooh, debating its merits even better." It's like, man, Phonebone just can't catch a break. It's like, I really love this book. It's so good. Everyone falls asleep when I tell them about it. And the funniest part ever, reading from Moby Dick actually works against two of the rat creatures attacking them. They immediately go to sleep. So yeah, the poor guy cannot catch a break. But it also does ultimately result in Smiley Bone having to say goodbye to his little buddy Bartleby as he goes back to the rat creatures. So, yeah, that's where he makes his leave. He goes bye-bye. But, we don't actually learn about this until a bit later, but something you may notice a bit about Bartleby is that, like, compared to the other rat creatures, yeah, that boy's got rounded ears and not pointed ones like these guys do. And
Right, yeah.
that's mainly because one of the traditions... Okay, so the rat creatures actually have two traditions. So, for one thing, they used to have, like, really long hairless tails because, again, they're rats. But some horrifying creature known as the Jek came along. And it traumatized them so much because what the Jek would do is that they would supposedly drag rat creatures away by their tails where they were just helpless to be able to escape from them. So to make sure they wouldn't get taken away by the Jek, after some time, they get their tails cut off. So that's why Bartleby has like a little nub.
Yeah.
But another tradition of theirs is that when they eventually get old enough, they crop their ears so they're more pointed upwards. And Bartleby did not want his ears cropped because the poor baby already went through trauma getting his tail cut off. I don't think he'd enjoy getting his ears cropped.
Yeah.
So that's when he ran away. He ended up running to the bone creatures, and that's how they ended up forming this little motley crew here until eventually Bartleby left. And then we get to Old Man's Cave. So this is where we get back to talking to other people within the valley, because we see Thorn again. We see them reuniting with Fonebone and Smiley-Bone. The valley people actually start learning a bit more about what Grandma Ben told Thorn back in book 3. We also see that the Hooded One forms an alliance with Rockjaw. And honestly, there is an exchange that Rockjaw has with King Doc, because like it's a bit of a payoff that happens in the 5th book, where King Doc actually approaches Rockjaw, and for some reason, King Doc suddenly isn't really able to form words. He can just kind of grunt angrily, and then Rockjaw just kind of looks at King Doc. He's like, "Oh, what was that? I couldn't quite make out what you were saying. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" And you see that he has like King Doc's tongue underneath his paw, showing that he ripped it right out of him. So King Doc not only lost an arm to Thorn, but a giant mountain lion ripped his tongue out. King Doc is falling from his throne. It's like, well, eventually he will truly become King Nothing. Lucius then ends up learning the Hooded One's identity. The Valley people get slaughtered by rat creatures, and we learn about the one who bears the star prophecy. One we will not explain what it is because it's way too damn funny.
Yes, like I said, that moment, that was what cemented it for me.
Yeah. But the other thing that we also find out as well is that, well, for one, actually, this is actually where Thorn gets a very different look to her. I'm gonna see if I can get it together, because like as you see her before, like she seems like she's like in a very like basic like, you know, green like farmer armor like outfit and whatnot. But then later on, ooh, that's actually a perfect image. Let's see if... Okay, so yeah, so I will pull this up for you guys on the stream so you guys can take a look at it. Cooperate with me. Let's see. So, yeah, this is the outfit she has, like, around the midpoint of Old Man's Cave. And I'm pressing the wrong button for changing the screens. Okay. But yeah, this is what she starts wearing, like, throughout the rest of the story.
Yeah, like, it's like she goes from like Legend of Zelda to this.
Yeah, she goes from Legend of Zelda to Xena, the warrior princess. So yeah, this is what she starts looking like now. She starts actually arming herself to for the battle ahead. And you know, it's actually really funny too, because you know, we know Jordan, absolutely wonderful guy that we oftentimes have on here. So his character Alex initially was based on a character called from Legend of Grimrock, and like the funniest thing is when we were both looking at this character, we're like, she looks a lot like Thorn from Bone, and he's just like, you know what? She kind of does. And that's part of where his OC's Alex, that's where part of her design actually comes from. So yeah, she does kind of have a bit of Thorn's hair going on. All right, just gonna switch things back to the PowerPoint. So yeah, this is where we start getting into the final trilogy of the story, where we get the last 7 books happening, starting with Go Circles. So the entire valley just straight up disappears because the Hooded One botched the ritual to bring the Lord of the Locusts back to the land of the living. And because of that, a lot of the valley is covered in Go Circles. There's a lot of the valley that is just outright disappeared. It doesn't exist. It's just wiped out. In fact, it's gotten to the point where like So it gets to the point where, like, it is actually snowing nothing but ash in the air. Like, there's just ash everywhere. It actually looks like the end of times.
It's like suddenly we've gone into freaking near.
Yeah. all that's missing is a talking grimoire.
Yeah, really.
Voiced by Liam O'Brien. After this point, the Bone Cousins, Thorn and Grandma Ben, believe that it is time to finally set out to the Kingdom of Athia. It's like, this is probably the only place left that we can go to. There's people there I can trust, and it's probably going to be the only place where we can make our final stand against the Hooded One and the Lord of the Locust. Lucius is arrested by the Venien for treason because back in book 6, when Lucius learns about the identity of the Hooded One, part of what we hear about in Lucius's past is because one of the people that he had a romantic relationship with was Grandma Ben's sister Briere. And she is the one who ends up turning out to be the Hooded One herself. And the thing is, Lucius always had feelings for Grandma Ben, like even before that, but just part of his doubt in himself made him think he wasn't good enough to be with Grandma Ben, so he ends up choosing her sister Briere, which ultimately would end up being a very bad decision because Briere beyond that locust shit.
Right, and it's like, it doesn't even, like, make a point, like, saying, like, yeah, like, I picked the wrong one.
Yes. And, when he actually does see, like, the Hooded One again and realizes that it's Briere, because, you know, one thing that, that the Hooded One is capable of doing, she can actually shapeshift her appearance a little bit. Again, kind of like Sauron. So she basically takes the face of what she used to look like before she was ultimately, you know, cut in half. Again, this was a fun family story about white people with big noses. But yeah, so even though, like, he realizes that it's like, you know, she was the wrong one for him, it's also at the same time, you kind of can't always get over the feelings that you have over people that you've kind of established a relationship with, and those feelings started manifesting again in Lucius when he realized Briere's still alive. And while this is happening and he's conversing with the Hooded One, the rat creatures start ambushing the farmers and nearly killing them. So because of that, the Venien warriors deemed what Lucius did as an act of treason, because not only was he in the arms of the Hooded One, but he also just kind of made it easier for the rat creatures to surround everyone and ambush them, leading to quite a few people suffering and dying as a result. There's also a part where the dreaming gets so out of hand that Phonebone and Phony turn into Ishmael and Captain Ahab. Like, Phony even gets a peg leg and everything. It's like, damn, Phonebone, I've heard of hyperfixations, but this is nuts. Thorn then discovers that she has a piece of the locust inside of her. So when we get to Old Man's Cave, we see a bunch of locusts, like, swarming Thorn's body. She was essentially, like, getting taken over by essences of the locust trying to invade into her mind and corrupt her, very similarly to what it did to Briere as the Hooded One. Phonebone, however, was able to help her with the dragon necklace that he was able to obtain some time ago from the Great Red Dragon, and basically puts it around her, and because it's enchanted by the dragons, it of course scares the locusts away. But before the locusts were able to get away, Thorn talks about how she was able to rip off a piece of the locust and keep it inside of her. So she essentially does have a bit of the powers of the locust in her, similar to the Hooded One. Not nearly as strong as Briere has it, though, but she does have a bit of it, and it's part of the reason why it's explained why she is actually able to traverse through the ghost circles. Also, Phonebone looks like the cousins were trying to play tic-tac-toe with his skin. Yeah, that's how Jeff Smith draws, like, scratches and battle damage. You know, when King Doc isn't getting his arm ripped off. Phonebone also obtains a piece of the locust inside of him because when Thorn tries to test a theory about, like, I think I can actually traverse in the ghost circles and be perfectly fine, he sees Thorn kind of starting to keel over a little bit because something starts being straining in her. Phonebone, with no hesitation, jumps into the ghost circle after Thorn and holds onto her tight enough to where it's like, okay, he's not outright disappearing because he's attached to Thorn, so her theory is somewhat being proven to everyone as they're going about, but because of that, a bit of the locust did end up going into Phonebone. In fact, it's actually where, a little bit later, when we do find the hooded one again, and Phonebone just shouts out his internal thoughts with a big stick.
Yeah.
Like, the hooded one actually looks at Phonebone and is like, there's a piece of the locust inside you as well. And then she just starts thinking to herself, from the very beginning, the dream showed me that a bone creature would become involved in these affairs. I just had the wrong one. So yeah, now it's about Phonebone. That boy didn't need a star.
Right.
Yeah. But also, as you probably see on the cover, Bartleby comes back, but he's like a year older and he knows how to talk. And don't worry, he still got the round ears. They still did not crop them. But we also do get a bit of a story from Bartleby as well. Like, when he did return, the other rat creatures just started bullying him because it's like, I bet you wouldn't eat those bone cousins if you had the chance. And he's just like, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't. But because he just kept bullying him so much, they're like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to the bone cousins. They weren't mean to me. Especially the big one. But like, as you see, like, this giant stone thing that they're going across. So, this is a bridge of, Tanengard. So, their only path to the kingdom of Athia was to trespass through Tanengard, despite the risks of it. But luckily they make it. Because you know why? We have an 8th book. So, we actually arrive in the kingdom of Athia here. So, we see everything so we basically see the environment that goes on here, and, man, you want to talk about character diversity? Just look at this damn kingdom. Like, I will see if I can try to, get a panel up for you to, because I think there should be something here. Let's see. So it's not exactly the panels that I'm looking for. I'm going to see if I can try to see if any other images will give me results. Otherwise, I'll just stick with that. It's not looking like it. Okay, so I guess I could just use this. Alright, so... let's see... Nope, get back to the streaming. Okay, so, So, yeah, and I'll also share it with you, Danny, so you don't have to look at stream delay.
Okay.
Yeah, just look at these funky guys. look at these funky guys and their interesting head shapes.
Yeah, so you got, it's like you got the guy with the nose, you got the giant bees.
Yep. Yeah, and that's in fact, that's something that's established as early as book 2. The bees are huge.
The giant bees.
Yeah, the bees. And yeah, Phonebone gets a funny new hat. He doesn't get to keep it though, but it is a funny hat. Alright. Bees, my god. But after this, we also are taught about the existence of prayer stones. So with prayer stones, these are basically attachments to, like, again, this is all attachments to, like, all the dreaming and whatnot. So there are some dream stones that do have, like, interesting carvings on them, and interestingly enough, the one that Thorn actually ends up getting actually has the name of her mother engraved on it. And so they actually take the prayer stone to, like, to Grandma Ben. She starts looking at it, and it's like, you know, yeah, I think I may know some people who'll be able to read this. And yeah, this is where we start being introduced. We start being introduced to our wizards, our magic users, the Dream Masters. And yeah, they're basically the guys in robes who can use dreaming as magic and whatnot. They can in fact cast fireball. We also discovered that while Grandma, Ben, and Thorn were gone from the kingdom of Athia, the kingdom ended up going under control of a tyrant known as Tarsal, who ended up making dragon and dream worship illegal, which is rather problematic when the entire kingdom was founded upon those things. And that becomes your dictator. Now, I will say, Tarsal isn't really that important of a guy, because we don't really see too much of him. We just know that he's a dick who needs to be stopped, but he doesn't really have the most presence throughout Book A. In fact, just throughout generally, like, the books themselves, we just know that the guy's an asshole. And that he has problems with dragons because he tried to have a fight with dragons, and guy fucked around and found out. Phony Bone has another scheme cooking.
Because of course he does.
Yeah, of course he does, because he found out where the Kingdom of Athea's treasure is hidden. So it's like, hey, if I find that treasure, I could probably go home the richest bone in Boneville. In fact, he kind of gets this idea after when they're trying to see, like, oh, what kind of currency do they have here? Like, what kind of things what kind of money do they have here? What are they spending here? This is a kingdom. They gotta have money. They gotta have coins. And then he just sees, like, a booth and someone's, like, giving the person an egg. He's just like, oh, do they also give eggs? Great. And then Phone Bone is getting flirted with by a giant bee. And then, as the bee is flirting with Phone Bone, the husband comes by and is like, hey, what do you think you're doing to my bee? And then they start getting into a fight where Phony Bone starts trying to beat away the male bee because he's beating up on Phone Bone. And then, because of his deed of chasing the bee away, he gets rewarded with gold coins. So it turns out, yeah, they actually do use, like, money and gold as their currency here. It's like, but I just saw you give that person an egg. Oh yeah, this is just my breakfast. They only pay with eggs and livestock up in the boonies. And then because of that, Phony Bone is just like, he starts trying to crack a scheme because he's like, hey, hold on. If they have gold coins, clearly there must be some kind of treasure here, because you gotta have some kind of way for the economy to be stored in order to really have it. So that's where he begins scheming to try to find a bit of the treasure. In fact, Smiley Bone even goes a step further by taking the coins that Phony got from chasing off the bees, and he actually stamps Phony's face on the coins. But as we all know, Murphy's Law makes it so that Phony Bone's plans never succeed. Because while he does actually find the treasure, it's not without consequences. We then actually do...
Like, I swear, Phony Bone is like one of those few characters you can say, he succeeds in failing upwards.
Yeah, he does. You know what? He's a boy fail. Phony Bone live boy fail. No, you see, you know the worst part about it though, Tanny, like, if Bone were ever to get an animated adaptation, I see two fates for Phony Bone. Either, like, he goes into the Jax territory, where everyone hates him for being a dick, or he gets labeled as the Tumblr sexy man.
Oh yeah, it's like, Fenrir, so he's Buggy the Clown. It's like, yeah, then he becomes like, so it's like either Tumblr sexy man, either he becomes like, the most hated character, or everybody's like, now then you get to camp like me. We're rooting for this bastard.
Yeah. This guy speaks to me. It's like, my spirit animal. I'm glad to have found him. We're also then, during this, we're taught about what is known as an artifact known as the Crown of Horns, which is a very deep secret that the dragons actually hold deep within Tenengard. And supposedly, the Crown of Horns because they ended up having to turn the Dragon Queen into stone, clearly there was nothing to keep the dreaming stable anymore. That is until they ended up having the Crown of Horns, which that ended up becoming the balance between the physical and dreaming worlds. Where if the Crown of Horns was so much as tilted in one direction, it could cause some travesty and chaos. But something in Thorn's head is telling her that the only way to solve this overall climatic issue is to seek the Crown of Horns. And that ends up becoming what the next goal is. Thorn wants to find this thing in order to stop the Locust threat once and for all. We also see the Hooded One conducting an attack on Athia with the enlisted help of the Powans. This is where we meet them for the first time, and then this is where the war truly ends up beginning. And it also ends with Foambone and Thorn getting caught by Tarsal and getting thrown into prison for their dragon worship. And then we get to Book 9, where the story concludes. And I'm not spoiling anything from this. Read it. This is probably like, I was willing to go into detail with like some of the other ones just to like kind of build up like how each one just connects into the other one. But considering this is the last book in the series, I feel like that would be I feel like that just wouldn't be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just read the book. Read, motherfucker, read! It's like Kratos in God of War 2. He goes up to one of the pastures and is like, read! And all right, we got ourselves an ad break. So like, I guess we could just kind of wait a little bit before we move on to the next one, because the next set of books, because this is all 9 books in the main series. So like everything goes from all the way from Out from Boneville all the way to Crown of Horns. And again, like if you really want to, if you feel like it's easier for you, there is a collection of the entire series all in one book. That's what me and Danny have. And fun fact, they actually now have it both either the original black and white, or you can get it in color.
Yeah, I think I got the black and white.
Yeah, I also got the black and white one as well. I think because that was the only one that was out at the time. They didn't get the colored one until later.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you ever want to... So, yeah, the books are still available if you ever want to get your hands on them. In fact, the funniest thing enough is that I was actually introduced to the... one of the other ways I was introduced to the rest of the series is because... Funny enough, my school librarian kept recommending them to me because I said I wanted to get into illustration and comics, and because of that, like, she just kept recommending Bone over and over again, which is really funny when you consider what would eventually happen to the fate between Bone and school libraries.
Ooh.
Again, we'll get to that when we get to the controversy section. And don't worry, it's not the kind of thing of what you're expecting. In fact, some of you might have a bit of a laugh at it. Alright, so welcome back from the ad break, guys. So, with that, with all 9 books, well, at least in the main series, now we get the prequel comic, which is Rose. So this talks about the origin of Grandma Ben and the Hooded One, as well as giving us the first encounters with the Great Red Dragon and the Lord of the Locusts. Also, fun fact, this is actually the first book in the series that's not illustrated by Jeff Smith. It's actually illustrated by someone named Charles Vess. And it probably has the most interesting art style out of all of them. Yeah, because I'll try to see if I can pull up, I'll see if I can try to pull up some pages like this. So like the cover here, obviously this was written by Jeff Smith. But if I can like try to get, okay, yeah, all right. So so I found a page for it. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you, Danny, because this is what the artwork in this book looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, definitely looks a lot more like Renaissance paintings.
Yeah. Which, honestly, not a bad art style.
Yeah. Like, I think it fits great for, like, for this kind of a flashback.
Yeah. Yeah, and regardless, I mean, it's like, yeah, like, the rat creature, those are still very much, those are the rat creatures. So it's like, you know, it's still, you can still easily identify and recognize that, yeah, this is the world of Bone.
Yeah. Pressing the wrong button again. There we go. Alright. Oh my god, Bone is teaching children to be communists! No! Phony's teaching kids to be capitalists! But this also further establishes the context between Grandma Ben and the dragon's relationships, as well as foreshadowing a lot of the main plot points in Bone. So, like, a big part of Rose is that this is basically supposed to be telling, like, you know, how exactly Briere, like, fell to the despair that she did, and also why Grandma Ben and the Great Red Dragon, when they first meet, are not on the best of terms with each other. And that is mainly because this is a story where Grandma Ben and Briere actually do come into contact with the Lord of the Locusts. Obviously, Briere just takes in all of the Locusts, whereas even though the Locusts tried to take over Grandma Ben, they didn't fully take her over, and she was actually able to escape from it. However, after that, we are then told that there is in fact a dragon that is causing problems to the people in the Kingdom of Athia, and has some kind of connections with the Lord of the Locusts going on. And Grandma Ben decides that she's going to take it up for herself to take on the, in order to take on this kind of dragon. But the Great Red Dragon actually does give her a warning on this. It's like, listen, he's causing problems, and he needs to be taken care of. But you need to understand, there's a balance to this. Because we dragons are more attached to the dreaming than you can possibly imagine. That one of us dying can actually tip the balance of the world. So, here's the catch. You can kill him. You're more than welcome to. However, once you do kill him, if you want to retain balance, you have to kill the very next thing you see. So, Grandma Ben does fight the dragon. She bisects this thing into numerous pieces, and ultimately killing the thing. And then the very next person that she sees is a wrinkled up Briere looking a lot more like the hooded one we know. And Grandma Ben is kind of looking at this in a very complex situation, because it's like, I know I'm supposed to kill the next thing that I see, but that's also my sister. And then Briere, kind of doing a bit of her manipulation, kind of looks at Grandma Ben and is like, oh, well, you see, there's the dog that came with you. You saw us both at the same time. I'm sure they'll accept that as your sacrifice. So Grandma Ben, against better judgment, chooses to kill the dog. And that's when Grandma Ben is hailed as a hero for killing the dragon, and it ends with Grandma Ben and the Great Red Dragon looking at each other, with the dragon looking less than impressed, because he's like, I know what you did. You didn't do what you were supposed to. This is gonna bite you in the ass. And lo and behold, that's when everything else in Bone starts to kick off. But yeah, like, I do think it's a very interesting read, because, like, obviously it kind of suffers from a big issue a lot of other prequels have when they're already connected to an established storyline, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, because these characters are, like, in this story, you know nothing's gonna really happen to them, but just the amount of recontextualizing that it ends up giving, the more exploring that it does with these characters, helps to not only, like, give us a really great insight on this character's backstory, but also helps to enhance the context of the original story. It does exactly what a prequel should do. But then we have the epilogues, where we go back into our more haha funny scenarios. So, back when I was mentioning the stupid rat tail, so we end up getting a couple of stories that Smiley Bone ends up telling to the kids. We get the origin of Big Johnson Bone and how he found Boneville, and how, again, the guy is basically Popeye if he were a bone creature. Like, you see that thing that he's riding and he's lassoed on? That's a giant rat creature tail.
Oh, jeez.
Cause here's the funny, Danny, this is where you're probably gonna start laughing your ass off too, because we actually get an explanation to what the Jek is.
Oh no.
So, it was at this point where we see Big Johnson Bone first meeting the rat creatures. They actually do have their rat tails onto them, and they try picking a fight with Big Johnson Bone because, hey, we're hungry, that guy looks yummy. Big Johnson Bone grabs them by their rat tails and starts swinging them around like a lasso. So Big Johnson Bone was the Jek. boy is the rat creature's boogeyman.
And that is the Bone Cousin's ancestor.
Yup, that's Funbone's ancestor. And it's because of him is why the rat creatures have their tails cut off, because they don't want him coming back and swinging them around. In fact, just his birth in general is just so wild, because when we see him, like, being born, first off, the kid isn't just simply born, he is rocketed out of the cooch.
Oh, Jesus.
The umbilical cord's still attached.
What?
Yeah, he still has the umbilical cord attached and he's shot out of the womb.
What the fuck? It's like, Jeff, what the fuck?
And then, and yeah, funny enough, it still gets more wild, because after that, a gust of wind ends up picking up Big Johnson Bone, who doesn't seem too concerned to be taken away by a giant gust of wind as a baby. And when the gust of wind finishes blowing him away, he ends up at the doorstep of what looks like an ice wizard.
Okay.
And then the guy's just like, who left this baby at my doorstep? I don't want this. And then he just throws him into a cave with a bear. And out comes Big Johnson Bone with the corpse of a bear.
Oh, Jesus.
And then, like, you have the mother, like, so where it's like, oh my god, my baby's gone, my baby's gone. And then moments later, you see Big Johnson Bone as a baby just walking in with a bear-skinned coat, as well as wearing, like, the outfit of the wizard, because he beat him up too.
What the hell?
He's doing this as a baby. Like I said, this man is Popeye if he were a bone creature.
Like, are you kidding me? This guy would make Popeye his bitch.
God, it really is like when it comes to this, where it's like, it kind of does bring you back to like the nature that the great cow race had, where it's just like, this is just, where it's like, it's more so like not just simply the jokes where it's like, oh yeah, we have some really funny jokes that just escalate into really great plot points that you just remember how funny they were. This just, whereas here, it's more so escalated with just how batshit insane the story gets with Big Johnson Bone. This man is imbued with the powers of God in anime. And best of all, we got a sequel, more Tall Tales. So it does contain Bone Coda, which is a story that takes place after the 9th book. We also get a backstory behind the rat creatures in Quiche. So there was supposedly a raid on a village one day, and the rat creatures were storming houses and trying to see like, oh, we're going to hunt people, we're gonna murder the people. But then, suddenly, their noses catch a scent of something fluffy, flaky, delicious. It's quiche. So no people died that day, but their quiche was in fact stolen. And then we get another story with Big Johnson Bone, where he has a fight with another bone creature on the moon. And it's that story that's supposed to explain why the moon has its craters, because that's the result of Big Johnson Bone's fight on the moon.
Oh my god.
Because you see, so in the first Stupid Rat Tales, we see that Big Johnson Bone has like a romantic interest. Like he does have someone that he had feelings for, and he met her at a cobbler eating contest. And Big Johnson Bone actually throws the contest so that his love interest can win it. But then something happened at the contest where the woman built up so much gas that she ended up launching into space. So, in this story, we get the story of Big Johnson Bone going to space so he can find his woman.
and it took him to the moon.
Yep. It's also, I guess.
Well, I gotta know now. Does he find her?
Yes, he does. He finds her on the moon. He finds her on the moon along with the guy he ends up having a fight with because it's like, oh, this woman's supposed to be going with me. And he's like, actually, this is my woman. No, it's my woman. Oh, you want to fight about that? Oh, we got to fight about this. And yeah, they just start fighting on the moon.
Oh.
And then she ultimately is like, boys, I'm not going with either of you. It's like, you left me up here for God knows how long, and you're too clingy. And so,
Big Johnson Bone. Does he have a Big Johnson?
You know what? Considering the things that he does here, he probably does. I guess we can also say this establishes that the bones can breathe in space. Because I just want you to keep this in mind. Big Johnson Bone is fighting on the moon without a spacesuit. But something that's also rather interesting is that some of the stories in this are actually illustrated by other people aside from Jeff Smith. There actually is one of the stories in here is actually illustrated by a guy known as Stan Sakai, who some of you may know for making Usagi Yojimbo. For those of you who don't know who they are, and you're probably not caught up on your Ninja Turtle stuff, so Usagi Yojimbo is a samurai rabbit. And he was basically like he was kind of like a side comic story and whatnot. Like, it wasn't necessarily attached to the Ninja Turtles at first. Like, I think that's something that ended up being established a bit later. But yeah, it was basically about a rabbit. It was basically about a rabbit samurai. Like, it was like he was basically like his own thing until eventually they merged together with the Ninja Turtles. Yes, I think Jordan would find that very interesting. He's like, hey, did you know the guy behind Usagi Yojimbo did art for Bone? And then we have Quest for the Spark. So, this is where we step into, like, the actual, like, written novel stuff. Now, there are some illustrations by Jeff Smith here. I remember Usagi. He was in Shredder's Revenge DLC. Yes, he was. So yeah, again, this is like 3 books long. They're not graphic novels, but like they are continuations of like, again, after the events of Bone. I don't think they really like changed too much of anything from like what you would. It's like these aren't really anything you necessarily need to look at. Just that, you know, if you were interested enough, it's like, okay, if you like Bone, you can take a look at Quest for the Spark. Like there's no hurt in doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Thorn starts to fall under a deep sleep, unable to wake up. One by one, more people of the valley fall under a permanent sleep. Now it's up to newcomer Tom, Percival Bone, his niece and nephew, Randolph, and the 2 stupid rat creatures to put a stop to the wicked Natch for putting the entire world into an eternal sleep. And yeah, it is this series where the 2 stupid rat creatures finally get official names. So, yeah, like, throughout the entire story of Bone, these 2 stupid rat creatures, that's all they're ever referred to as, the stupid rat creatures. Here, Percival's niece and nephew actually give them their names. And appropriately, they are Stinky and Smelly.
Oh, God, that is so cute.
Yeah. And, also, it's confirmed that Percival also confirms that he is also a cousin of Phone Bones, making him the 3rd cousin. And it also makes me wonder, goddamn, what is Phone Bones' family tree like?
Seriously.
It's like, you're his cousin, you're his cousin, you're his cousin, I'm his cousin. Are there any other Phone Bone cousins I should know about? Usagi Jimbo was also in the 2003 TMNT series. Yeah, like, it was after some time where, like, Usagi did become part of the Ninja Turtles, because he was also a part in 2012 at one point. The Bone Cousins do get mentioned in the story, but they do not make an appearance in the story whatsoever. Some of the other past characters do. Like, we do see Thorn, we do see Grandma Ben, we do see the Great Red Dragon, but they're not so much involved in the story because, again, it seems like all of the old cast end up getting put to sleep one by one, which I will say I think is a rather interesting way to, like, while still including them in the story, but also, like, still giving an excuse for why we have new blood here, because it's like, well, the old ones aren't available for this. They're getting put into a deep sleep by the wicked Natch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the record, as for Natch, the boy is a dragon who is a worshiper of the Lord of the Locusts, which is interesting because all the other dragons hate the Locusts except for this guy. Now, for some of the controversies behind Bone.
Here we go.
All right, so Bone actually had 2 instances of being banned from school libraries. One of the instances failed, but one of them was successful in that regard. Really, TP? You want me to read Charizard's crimes off now? You know what? I'll read his crimes off after I'm doing the controversies of Bone, because that way we can compare and contrast what an actual criminal looks like.
Okay.
Alright, so the first instance was on account of the comics containing things like smoking, drinking, and gambling, but that wasn't enough to convince the schools of actually banning the books, because it's like, I mean, yeah, they do have smoking, they do have smoking, they do have oh, I thought that one was the added one. Oh, no, the added one is the cheaper one for 1,000. I can refund that to you later, TP. He's responsible for Bone's controversy. You know what? Sure, we'll find Charizard for that. Alright. So yeah, it's like, you know, it's like, oh no, these books have like smoking and drinking and gambling, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but it's not like the books are outright telling these people to do that. And on top of that, considering the kind of era that the Valley kind of is inspired by, like really, really old times, yeah, you want to know what people did a lot in those eras? They smoked, they drank, and they gambled. Yeah, so it's kind of accurate to where the area was inspired by. However, the second instance actually did end up getting the books banned from the school libraries on accounts of the stories containing racism, political views, which, and some political views which got the books ended up banning. Now, you're probably wondering, wait a minute, what do you mean racism? Was there really any racism in the books? Well, you could kind of get that idea with the amount of times that the village people called the Venian warriors stick eaters. So, there was a bit of that here and there and whatnot. But not so much as, like, you know, hardcore of, like, you know, oh yeah, Jeff Smith is totally all for that, but just more so, again, just showing the different type of cultures. Because, again, did you know way back in the day, in the ye old days of, like, America, did you know people were fucking racist?
Yeah, really.
It's like, imagine the thoughts. Imagine making an area, like, more accurate to its history that it's based off of. Couldn't imagine that. It's crazy. And, Jeff Smith, when Jeff Smith has actually declared a number of times that, yeah, he never intended Bone to be written for kids. Like, again, he's not a children's entertainer. He didn't want his books, you know, associated with kids. And all this does is remind us that we live in a world with dumb people. And, like, I still find it so funny because it's like, because the thing is, like, I mentioned that, like, part of the reason why I got into Bone is because, you know, again, like, I ended up seeing the books at a book fair. I got curious because of just some of the things I read from the Nickelodeon magazine. Like, I thought it's something I'd end up liking. Boy, did I end up liking it. But also because my school library kept recommending me the books when looking for something new to go into. And I just keep getting recommended by things, like, from the library. It's like, yeah, definitely take a look at Bone. And funny enough, a lot of other people who got into Bone also say the same thing. Like, school libraries, like, really pushed Bone a lot. Which, again, is rather ironic considering now that people try to get them banned from school libraries. It's like, the school librarians themselves wanted to push this series, and now the other people want them banned from the libraries. And yet, somehow, Bone's banning from libraries still nowhere near as stupid as the time Captain Underpants was banned from school libraries. All because he had potty humor. Reminder, we live in a world of dumb people. Now, if you want to get Bone, So there are a couple of places where you can actually get them. So you actually can't go to Jeff Smith's website itself. It is boneville.com. Hashtag not sponsored. So there you can actually get the books if you want to. You can also get like other apparels as well. You can get t-shirts, plushies, figures, and even like signed prints. In fact, I'm actually gonna put up the webcam right now because I do in fact have a Phone Bone plush. Just gonna... Yeah, there he is. He's a Phone Bone plush. Small. But you know what? Phone Bone's small as well, so it's perfectly fine. The other thing, too, he also has a backpack that you can open up, and you actually put things in his backpack.
That's cute.
Yeah, I do think it's really cute. And, yes, Dandy, they do have one of Phony Bone on there.
As they should.
Yep, they have one of Phony. They also have one of Smiley. I think they also come in, like, multiple different sizes as well. Like, you can actually get, like, a much bigger one, but obviously they're more expensive. But yeah, like if you can go to Jeff Smith's website, you can get like any of the books that you want that are on there. It's also where you can get it's actually where I got the big book as well. It was actually from his site where I ended up getting it. So you can get this, you can get the one in the colored version. And yeah, you can also get like a number of different like other prints as well from the Bone comics as well. Like you can get like some prints where one of them is actually a poster that it actually mimics like the famous like Beatles album cover where they're walking across the street.
Oh, Abbey Road.
Yeah. Like there actually is of that, except you know they replaced the Beatles with the Bone Cousins and Thorn. Yeah, it is so good. In fact, it's also boneville.com where I actually got my Phone Bone hoodie. I'm gonna see if I can find that because I know I still have it. Okay, yep, I do still have it. Found it in my closet. So, let's see. Yeah, and, you know what, just for the record, I'm never getting rid of this. I treasure this way too much. So yeah, here's my Phone Bone hoodie. So, yeah, him in the gloves, like, because again, like in the first book, because this is when he was, like, helping out a lot with, when it came to, like, the chores around the farm. So, like, yeah. So he's got his gloves there. Again, it's seen better days. Phone Bone is kind of, like, wearing a little bit on the front. On the back, you do have Bone, and if you look the Bone logo and you look really close, you can see. I'm trying to see if I can get the camera to look in on it. You can see Ted on there.
Oh, yeah, I saw him.
Yeah, there's Ted. He's Ted. He's a bug. Yeah, that's like all the Bone stuff that I do have in like terms of like merch, clothes, and then yeah, then you just got this big honking book. Hold on here. Okay, yeah, so my mic started doing some weird things. Alright, but yeah, like those are some of the things that you can get like on the Boneville's website. And you know, hey, if you end up getting into Bone and you and you end up like really liking this stuff, his other works are available on there too. Like you can get into Rassel, you can get into Tukey, like they're all there. You can just purchase them like straight from the website. You can also get them from Scholastic.com because, you know, again, there was the Scholastic deal that Bone ended up getting, which is why we actually got the colored version, because Scholastic was looking at Bone, they're like, you know, these comics are really good, but I think they'd, like, grab people's attention more, like, if you added color to them. So, Jeff Smith was like, you know what, sure, we can do a color job with this, I don't mind this, you know, as long as everything else is untouched, and, you know, yeah, everything else is, everything else is just untouched, so, like, yeah, if you want the Scholastic stuff, it's basically everything but in color. And I will say, I do think Steve Haymaker does a really good job coloring things. Okay. It's like, do people think, like, at all, oh boy, Realm, I see what you mean by when you said they really haven't changed that much compared to now. Yes, like, Bone getting banned from school libraries because, oh no, Jeff Smith made a book that wasn't kid-friendly. I didn't want it to be for kids. and, you know, it's also really funny, too, that it's like, you know, it's like, oh, this has possible undertoned racism that isn't actually glorified in the slightest, and political views that are only slightly there. It's like, oh, this stuff isn't kid friendly. We need to get this out of our libraries. And it's like, okay, so I guess you never saw the part where King Dot got his arm ripped off? I guess you didn't get to the part of the book where you actually see a person actually getting bisected? Because that happens. This is a book about funny big-nosed white people. Alright. So as we're reaching the end of this presentation, so chat, is there anything else you would like to know about when it comes to Bone before we decide to wrap up here? Because I'm all for questions. Also, Scholastic doing good for Jeff. Netflix, take some notes, please. It's like, we will neither forgive you for this or the Dark Crystal. And actually, I'm gonna see if I can actually pull up the phony plush. Of course, he goes on an ad break when it's like, "Hey, you guys want to ask me questions?" And then, nope, never mind, ads. And oh yeah, actually, I found a plush of all three of the cousins. So yeah, here's what I've. So yeah, there's the phone bone, there's the phony, and then there's the smiley. So I'll put that in the sidebar for you, Danny, and then for the stream, I'll just put this up for him real quick.
How's that crime list TP asked for?
Hold on, we will get to that, but for now, let's see. I want to get. I have so many different layers to work with here. Okay, there we go. There's the correct one. So yeah, here's the plushes for the phone bone, the phony bone, and the smiley bone. They fluffy, they adorable, and they can be yours. You too can have the one who bears the star.
And portably.
Yeah, you can. You can also get a Barbly. In fact, actually, something that's super wild, Annie, is because they also do have action figures, and like, honestly, I kind of regret not picking it up when I saw it. But there's actually this local toy store near me. They actually had a Smiley Bone like action figure there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like a really old like Smiley Bone action figure, like way back in the day. Like they actually were selling one of those there. And again, I regret not picking that up when I saw it. Yeah, because it looked so nice. It looked like a really nice figure. I don't know if you can order that from the website anymore, because there are some things that they don't sell on there anymore. It's just whatever that you see like in the shop that is on the website. That's what you can get. I have to say, this has been very educating stream realm. This actually has made me very interested in reading Bones. I can't wait to get one to read them. Yes, good. That is the goal of this stream. I am converting you people to peak fiction. That was precisely the plan. I will convert people. I will make more people know about this series. Yeah, I'm curious about this series. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are, because again, Bone is just so good. I wish more people talked about it. I wish more people like showed interest in it, because again, the more people interested in it, the more we just look at Netflix and be like, this could have been animated. This could have been animated and put on your streaming service. It's not. Look what you took from us.
Right. Well, and that's where I know you had mentioned the Telltale games. I believe people have done like Let's Plays or something of it. So at the very least, you can always go on YouTube, because I know I've seen some of the gameplay footage.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though granted it's built to, because it's a puzzle game, so of course they had to adjust and adapt for it. But as far as kind of getting the humor of the story and such, at least for the beginning part, because like you said, it covers the first 2 books where it is the most humorous.
Yeah.
So it's I would say if you kind of just want to see, like, you know, is this really your thing or something, that might be a good place to start. Just watch some of that gameplay.
Yeah.
You know, while you're waiting for the book to come in the mail.
Yeah. And what's even cooler about the Telltale games is that it's like, you know, because obviously, you know, it feels very much like Sam & Max. Like, it's a point-and-click game where, like, you have multiple different dialogue options to move the story along. But fun fact about the Bone games, literally every single line of dialogue that is in the comics can be found in the game. So if you actually know, like, how the actual story itself goes, you can literally play a straight adaptation of the comics in game form, because it has all the dialogue in it.
Malik asks, what was Jeff smoking when he made this? Because I've never seen something so loony before, and I watch Looney Tunes.
Yeah, well, okay, to be fair, that's primarily when you get to the stuff with Big Johnson Bone in the first 2 books. After that, it's like, hey, you want Lord of the Rings?
Yeah. And then Crystal Stargirl says, was there anything new with the series as of recent?
Well, the only recent thing is that Kickstarter that Jeff Smith is doing to try to get Thorn to go out with. And again, I feel like that's not really necessary to really, like, get more of, like, the adventures of, like, Bone and whatnot. But it is a very interesting way of, like, seeing what Bone originally could have been, like, before we got what we do now.
Okay, so, you know, I'll ask a question, you know, tying back to where I was saying before. So, like, I guess we'll ask this of you.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite part in this story?
Oh, God, hitting me with the big one. God, because there's so many parts in Bone that I absolutely do enjoy, but, I'll say, I don't know, because I guess one of my favorite things about it, one of my favorite parts of it, and I guess it's a little bit of cheating because it does kind of show up a number of different times, but, like, honestly, my favorite parts are the moments where are just all the moments where, like, Bone is just able to just adapt to so many of the new situations that come before him in a way that just, it makes him just such a well-rounded character that is just very easy to get along with, very easy to get attached to, and just the number of times where, like, Bone will even, like, step up to people who are, like, even, like, much bigger than him, or absolutely much bigger than him. Like, this guy actually looked at King Doc straight in the face and shouted at him when asked to, like, I'll leave you guys alone to live if you tell me where the one who bears the star is and where the princess is. And he just looks at King Doc and says, forget it. We'll never sell out our friends. We'll die first. It's like, I love all those moments where Bone is like that, and he actually, like, asserts himself in that strong position. Like,
Yeah.
they're all just such great moments. Like, this guy even looks at a Dream Master, like, the head Dream Master, and actually, like, choose him out for, like, doubting Thorn's ability as, like, for doubting Thorn's, like, abilities to turn the tides of the war. Like, just those moments are just so great, and it's a big reason why, like, Bone is, like, one of my favorite character in this book. Like, those moments are just so great.
Okay.
Yeah. Although I will say, another strong contender of a favorite of mine is literally how the story ends. I will not say it, but, the only thing I will say is, man, Jeff Smith knows how to write a really good brick joke.
Okay.
It's so good. It's hard to get interested in new things, but this, I'm in love. I'm glad. I'm glad I can get you interested, Roxy.
Oh, you know what? I got a random factoid. Not so much Bone related, if anything, so much as Jeff Smith related.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, so I remembered I forgot who the fuck wrote this. But there's another comic series that is notorious for, like, starting out really promising, only for it to go completely downhill because the cartoonist is a fucking nut job.
Yep.
The series was called, I believe, like Cerebus the Aardvark.
Yep.
And it was like, for whatever reason, this guy, like, I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, he had a bone to pick with Jeff Smith. And it was like, for whatever reason, it's like, I don't remember what it was exactly. I think it might have been like, you know, his like, because this guy that wrote this Cerberus comic, he had very, very toxic political views on women and all that other shit. Like, just a very unpleasant individual.
Oh yeah.
And I guess maybe he might have taken issue with Jeff Smith's success or something. I don't know. I just remembered he got so pissed at him and kept trying to, like, you know, fight him and stuff. He even like said, "Oh, let's settle this with a boxing match. I'll fucking fight you." And Jeff Smith is like, "No."
Like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, like another cartoonist tried to pick a fight with Jeff Smith, and he's just like, no, and walked away.
Oh my god, it's like you know what, you say that, like, you know, oh, he had a problem with, like, he especially, like, had a problem with women. Like, I don't know, part of me is also thinking, well, Jeff Smith also did get his wife to help him with ishing bone, so maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remembered hearing about that, like, and like seeing that in like a bit like videos and stuff talking about this guy. Oh, let me see. Dave Sim, that's this guy's name. Okay. So.
You know what? Put a P at the end of that. You get Dave Simp.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So here, I just pulled up a Wikipedia article and I just did Control F on Jeff Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just make a note here. Okay, so I'll just read this paragraph. Okay, so specifically on his views of women. In the course of writing Cerebus, Sim expressed opposition to feminism and made controversial statements regarding men and women, expressed his views on the gender, using a synonym, pretty much, you know, just being an alt. Let me see. Among the various theories expounded upon in this piece, he categorizes humanity into metaphorical lights, which tend to reside in men, and voids, which tend to be in women. He characterized voids as without a glimmer of understanding of intellectual processes, and declared that light does not breed.
Wow.
Yeah, very pleasant fucking guy.
This guy would fit great on Reddit.
Yeah. In 1995, Comics Journal 174 featured a Bill Willingham caricature of Sim on one of the covers. Inside is a lengthy article written by a bunch of people that published responses from comic creators. The responses ranged from anger to belief that he was joking. Others would later speculate that he has a mental illness related to a heavy drug use. All this stuff. In the essay of Cerebus 186, Sim characterized fellow self-publishing cartoonist Jeff Smith as an example of a man dominated by his wife. When Smith contested this, Sim accused Smith of lying and challenged Smith to a boxing match, which Smith declined.
I knew it had something to do with his wife! I knew it! God, why are people like this so predictable?
Well, I'm trying to think. Wasn't she like a big reason, like that helped him go indie?
Yeah, like she helped with Jeff Smith, like actually being able to publish Bone and like make cartoon books. Yeah, in fact, actually, hold on. I want to find this really wholesome image that with Jeff Smith and his wife, because it's like he has like this image with him and his wife along with like all of like the characters in Bone like all together in it. It's very sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see if I can try to find it because it is such a sweet image. I love how it looks. Although Bartleby in this image is brown instead of purple. Yeah, like I think like it's because I think before Scholastic, like some like the colorations of some characters did end up changing. So like so yeah, in the books like they were actually purple. In fact, I think King Doc is another example of a character who also goes through a bit of like color changes. Like there's some images where he's like he has brown fur, but like in the actual like Scholastic books, he has purple fur. All right. Well, I mean, I found the Beatles image, but yeah, I'm not finding the one that I was like thinking of. But it's like, yeah, like it's Jeff Smith and his wife, and he's just hanging out with like the hand drawn like Bone characters like on him, just having a good time. It's very sweet. It's very wholesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very cute. But like, man, that other guy though, man, he'd fit in great on Reddit. Okay. You know what? TP did redeem it earlier, so you know what? We already went through what Bone's supposed controversies are. You know what? We're gonna go over Charizard's controversies just for a comparison and show you what an actual criminal is. So we have arson, backcapping, stealing jungle, endorsing capitalism, being fake, throwing in every multiplayer game possible, unlike the One Piece, he isn't real, set crafting on fire, crashed a princess's party, going AFK when losing, second-rate shaboingery, robbing Crafty's viewer stream loot cards, he doesn't have Uno, stole the crown, jaywalking, faking ID, indecent exposure, public nudity, littering, reckless driving, breaking and entering, accessory to a robbery, public urination, and now he's responsible for Bone's controversies.
Okay.
You're in big trouble. You're in big trouble, Charizard. Alright, so, any more questions that the chat has before we ultimately wrap this up? Yeah, just any from the chat at all. They can be anything about Bone whatsoever. If there's anything you want to learn that doesn't involve me having to spoil too much. But other than that, I'm willing to answer anything that you like. Still love this plush. Squishy noise. And then you can think of, okay, aside from who's getting rated, yeah, I'll have that in mind once, yeah, I'll have that in mind momentarily. Actually, I should probably refresh the Twitch page so I know who to, so that way I know who to rate, so we can have, like, people available. Alright, not sure. Alright, it sounded like, it sounded like, you guys are rather satisfied with what you're hearing. Well, in that case, I'm glad I could have you guys dive into the world of Bone with me and learn why I love this series so much. And always remember, everyone, comics am literature. Ah, good old Smiley Bone. Gotta love the big lanky dude. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys are able to enjoy the presentation. I'm glad to have actually been able to present it. And again, if for anyone who ended up missing the live viewing, you guys can be watching it on the YouTube, because it will be going there as soon as I can. But for now, so before we end things off here, I do have one special announcement that I would like to give, because this is going to be something that is going to be taking up a large majority of my streams next month. Because, for those of you who are unaware, my birthday is in the month of July, and I will be taking quite a number of days off from work in order to focus on this rather big stream event that's going to be happening throughout the entirety of July.
Really?
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you with the Rise to Superior Lorathon. So, you were probably wondering what all those reference sheets I was working on was for. it is for this. I didn't get them completely finished, though, and that's mainly because I wanted to have some room to be able to work on them specifically for this event going on, because I want to be able to talk about the story I'm writing, the characters I'm making, the world that I'm building, and I'm going to be saving all of that throughout the month of July. Now, I'm not going to be streaming every day on July, because there's going to be some times where it's like, I'm going to need to have off, because, you know, I also do streaming for SNG and Strixhaven. And there's also just some days where it's like my work, on some days where I do have work, it's not going to give me too much time to myself to actually be able to stream stuff. But just so you know, I will be streaming a lot this month, primarily talking about the Rise to Superior stuff. I'll be talking about characters. I'll be talking about, like, some of the things in the worlds and whatnot. And I got a lot of images that I'm going to be working on, as well as a special illustration that I will be doing near the end of the month. Now, I will also say, all of the VODs for the Lorathon will be posted on my YouTube once they are done, with the exception of a couple of them, because as much as I would love to be able to, because I do want to be able to tell you all about the things that I do, I don't want to make too much of it that easily accessible, but more so as just a reward for people who like to tune into the streams and just watch them on here, because that is ultimately what I do want to do. Like, while I do like being able to, like, put stuff out on the YouTube, I do want to start pushing more people to, like, watch the live streams themselves. So, you know, you guys can watch this stuff live, and I can communicate you in real time. Just make sure your hands get plenty of rest. Oh, yeah, that's actually a big reason why I'm even having, like, this bone retrospective here. Because, again, the last couple of, like, weeks, I've been doing nothing but drawing. So this is a good way to rest my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, yeah, I shall see you guys throughout the month of July. And in case you're wondering, my birthday is, in fact, July 30th. And I do have off on that day. There's also going to be some days where I'm not going to be streaming at all, and that's because later in July, I'm actually going to be moving to see my sister to celebrate my birthday with her and the niece. So I will be out of town during those days, so you can expect no streams then. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. But yeah, I hope you guys look forward to seeing that. Again, thank you so much for joining me with hyperfixating on Bone. And yeah, Danny, thank you for joining me on this. I'm glad to have had you along for it.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. We got to talk about the bones.
It's like any opportunity to talk about the bones. Any opportunity to talk about the phony bones.
Yeah, and you know what? I know exactly who we're going to be raiding into, because they just came back from a rather long hiatus. We're going to raid into Soul Kaya. And you know what? Our raid message is going to be none other than stupid, stupid rat creatures. Alright, so as the usual rules go when we raid into people, don't overpromote the stream, respect the streamer's rules, be sure to follow their content if you like what they do. Soul Kaya is absolutely wonderful. Their energy is fan-fucking-tastic. And, yeah, they are just an overall great person in general. And when you do raid into them, make sure you go to the URL address, remove the referred equals raid from it, and then refresh so your view actually counts from them, because Twitch is very weird like that. But until then, I have been Realm Wars. We've been talking about my favorite story of all time. I am hoping to have converted a number of you into it, and I shall see you guys next time.